572 pages. We'll never get back. This is the Bad Book Podcast, where every so often, every week and a half, every 10 days, 12 days, 11 days, work days, please. We're like FedEx here. I get together with Conor Listoka, who is here now, and we talk about books. Hello, Conor.
Hello, Mike. Thank you for the breakdown of our schedule. I think it's very helpful for people who question whether the dumb sentence of the week applies if we are operating on an every 11-day basis. And to those people, I say, you are the greatest heroes for pedantically questioning the title of one of our segments that the world has ever known. Yes.
As you describe those people, a tear rolled down my cheek, yes, thinking about their heroism.
You saluted just instinctively.
I did. I snapped one off the brim for them. Like, thank you so much. But we're in the middle of a book by Andy Weir. Mm-hmm. It is called Artemis. Can we call it the follow-up to his smash?
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's the follow-up to the smash hit, Oscar-nominated screenplay, movie, The Martian, topped the end-of-year book lists, and it's the middle book in between another book called Project Hail Mary, I believe. So 2 acclaimed books, and then one the difficult second album, as they say in the music industry.
The sophomore slump.
Though, as we are exploring and as people are sort of writing in, we question the narrative on this one, whether it's truly a sophomore slump or whether it's just people got tired of shoveling down gunk and turned on the author.
Well, to that end, I have a little tale to tell you and the listening audience that happened just last night.
Oh, wow.
A friend of mine phoned and said, hey, this is a wild story for you. This completely relates. It could not relate more. So this is very timely.
Someone called you to tell you this.
Someone called me on, what are those things? The phone thing?
Gizmo. Wow, he used it to place a call.
He took his gizmo out, and he placed the call. The slugs went into his account, I'm assuming, to pay for the phone call. And he told me that he was driving on a slow road with lots of foot traffic. Probably it was along the river, I think.
Okay.
And so it was a lot of stops. And he was listening to our podcast.
Well, that's kind of him.
Yeah, he was listening to Artemis. So that's the first thing where I know listeners are going, wait a minute. Friends don't listen to other friends' podcasts. I'm like, that is true. That is... I can understand your skepticism.
You got a phone call from a friend at night and probably thought someone had died, but then you right. realized he was lying to you, and that's much worse. Yes,
right. So for whatever reason, he made up this crazy tale. He said as he stopped at a stop sign, the podcast turned over to the new episode, and so the music started. Causing a man, I don't remember whether he was biking or just walking, to stop him and go, hey, is that 372 pages?
No.
My friend goes, yeah. And I think he sort of pulled over to a safe place because the guy, told him to, pull it over, man. I was like, okay.
Wow. Well, yeah. So he's encountered a maniac, 1. 2, he's also listening loud enough that it's like, his sound system is bumping out the theme song.
He said it was a warm night. The windows were down. He felt the spirit, so he's cranking 372. I know, the story strains credulity, but I swear this is how it was told to me.
This is like when Tom Hanks, hears Elvis on the radio for the first time in the movie and just does the slow turn to the radio to...
So the guy stops him, puts the arm and the head inside his, opposite window there. And I was like, yeah, I've been listening to this one too. This is Artemis. And and he got very intense and started to tell him his theory that Artemis is most certainly not written by Andy Weir.
So your friend thinks he's going to die.
It is written by Klein. Oh. So the lunatic with an arm and the head in the window is going the deep dive conspiracy theory. As my friend is going, is my gun in the glove box or is it?
Wow.
And then said, he goes, yeah, it doesn't seem... So my friend had read The Martian and had sent it to another friend who he thought would like it.
Okay.
And this guy wrote him back and said, this was fantastic. I loved it. And so my friend is open to the theory a little bit. Like, this does not seem like the writing of this guy. But so anyway, after a few minutes of that and talking about the podcast, he began to pull away. The guy did not take his arm or his head out of the cab. And so he went like, I guess you're coming with me. I guess I got a passenger.
Wow.
And he continued to talk. He said, in total, 20 minutes.
Holy crap. That's incredible. That's like, I mean, you know, I've always thought like there's been times where we've been flying to Nashville or something and I had like Bob Honey or Trucking Through Time on the plane. And I was like, what if someone just like sort of like, you know, tapped me on the shoulder to get my headphones out. It was like, are you reading that for? But never in a million years did I imagine an encounter like that happening in real life.
I can't believe it. And I didn't know what to say to my friend because he's one who, he doesn't particularly care what I do. Why he was listening to my podcast, I have no idea. But he knows what I do. But he has been with me a few times where people recognizing me from Riff Tracks or MST will come up and demand an autograph. And he'll look around, you know, he's just like half-lidded eyes will go, is it a setup? Like,
yeah, right, yes, yeah. Watching to see if you slip him 5 under the table.
Yes. So anyway, to have him be cornered in the wild it's like a great victory for me. It was so good.
Yeah, it is. It's a you want a video of the encounter just so you can see his face and the person encountering him.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Man,
it was good.
That's terrific. So yeah, I think the lesson is, I think if you hear anyone listening in public, feel free to you know, corner them, to interject yourself
theories
into their personal space. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Well, that theory, though, I mean, so that's, you know, I don't think it's unreasonable. We got an email that I'll jump ahead to that sort of, you know, it gives some credence to it. This is from Cynthia. She said, I've been reading ahead because I borrowed Artemis from my library's digital library, and in the acknowledgement, Weir thanks his editor, Julian Pavia. The name rang a bell, and I looked him up. He's edited all of both Klein and Weir's books. He has an AMA from 2015 on Reddit that reveals he's a huge Awesome Sauce video game nerd, and now it makes total sense he would approve of their style. So then she has a screenshot of someone who says, they're asking him a question. It says, I guess he's referring to the pop culture stuff. It felt shoehorned and forced in Armada. The nostalgia element of the novel was video games being used as a secret training program, but that's all it needed. Old movies and whatnot had no bearing on how good of a pilot a person could be. Do you think the book would have been better without them? And that had 20 upvotes. And the guy says, leading your witness, Your Honor, objection. In all seriousness, it's hard to talk about this without getting spoilery. Is it? But the pop culture references are crucial in Armada in certain ways, and I think they're a part of the charm of Ernie's writing in general. So no, I don't agree. Mostly, though, I'm sad to hear you didn't love the books. I'm disappointed that he didn't say it gives me a sad that you didn't love the book, but I have the sads, but
don't yuck my yum.
So yeah, that's the guy who could truly pin down head in the cars theory, but maybe we'll have to.
I think we got a little bit of a To Kill a Mockingbird situation here. This rumor's not going away, folks.
Yeah, like why not? You've never seen him in the room at the same time, you know.
Can't AI analyze this and give us the answer?
I bet you. Yeah, you might be able to. The way you can tell if a paper is sourced from Wikipedia or something.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Well, that's exciting. But I think if there's any more street encounters, please let us know about them. If you ever run into someone else who recognizes the podcast in the wild.
Right.
But, well, let's get to the book. I think it's an important episode because this one crosses the halfway mark of Artemis.
Right.
And it's sort of, I don't know, it provides us a good opportunity to, I don't know, reset.
Yeah, and I think sometimes this is true. I know all you writers out there, and you, Connor, you and I are writers. Sometimes you have to write your way in. Mm-hmm. You know, you you kind of almost, if you could throw away, you're not going to, but if you could throw away the first half of the book and start over, you write your way in, you find your characters. Mm-hmm. And so by the middle, the pen is humming. The pen, the computer, whatever you're using is humming along, and you found your voice.
Yes, absolutely. It's a growth on the page, as you see. And I think as we read through this and analyze it, if you can call what we're doing analysis, you want to make sure you haven't been too unfair. You want to make sure that you're going to be clear-eyed going forward, just because, as you said, maybe this guy has grown into what he's writing and who these characters are. So I think the halfway mark sort of provides a good opportunity to clear our plate, look at this with fresh eyes. Right. A new day is dawn. Make sure that we're not just like hung up on something we read in the first chapter and
splash a little water on the face and the back of the neck, and let's dive back into part 2.
Got it. Yep. And so chapter 7 starts with I stared at Dale like he'd grown a dick out of his forehead. So good night, folks. That's we'll see you next 11 days for episode 4.
We gave it the college try there.
That was one that when I was going through to find out what the assignment would be, 2 weeks ago when we recorded this, I just saw that as I was doing a word count. I was like, no! And I forgot about it until 6 days ago when I started reading this, and it was like incredible.
I don't know. It made me think of we've done it many times before, but great first sentences, right?
Yeah, it's got that little robot pimp energy to it. I think it's you couldn't read the sentence in any other book, I would say. That's what that has going for it.
Whether I shall turn out to be the hero of my own life, or whether that station will be held by anybody else, these pages must show, as I stared at Dale like he'd grown a dick out of his forehead.
Oh, man. All right, there's your challenge, audience. Where would that best work its way into?
Lolita, light of my life, fire of my loins, why do you have a dick in your forehead? All right, and on and on. Anyway.
Yes. But that is how she's encountered Dale, her former best friend, as he has found her in the Apollo 11 tourist center after she's committed this act of terrorism, blown up three moon cruisers or harvesters or whatever. And this is the encounter as he's like, you're busted, like what's going on? And the first thing that we encounter is something that we read in real or fanfic. But it's worth revisiting just because the context of when it has happened is very important, I think. But this is where he said, she says, you're gonna lecture me on morality? And he says, are you ever gonna let that go? And she says, why should I? And he rolls his eyes. Tyler's gay, Jazz. Gay as Oscar Wilde wearing sequins, walking a pink poodle with a tiara on his head. The poodle has a tiara? No, I meant Oscar Wilde has the tiara. Right. Anyway, so that's just the context of him essentially having a gun drawn on her as she's just the most wanted fugitive on the moon makes that exchange even better.
And if dick out of the forehead is Exhibit A, Your Honor, may we introduce Exhibit B, this little exchange, which comes right after it, as we prosecute Mr. Andy Weir for writing this book.
Yeah, or as the AI scans to see if it's Klein, it probably explodes and is like, nope, the evidence is too strong. Please, why did you ask me such a simple task?
To get people up to speed on the, she has sabotaged a bunch of moon machines. Mm-hmm. In this very, very small city on the moon. And she had gone out with Tyler, and then Dale stole Tyler, her boyfriend, whom she loved.
Correct. I had to look it up. Tyler is the former boyfriend who's gay. Sean is the one who the Morals Brigade beat up.
Right.
So not to confuse the two.
But she was having a wonderful time with Tyler, right? She was reporting to Kelvin about how great their relationship was.
Yeah, absolutely. She'd never been happier. She'd finally been grounded. She moved in with Sean and her dad disowned her type of thing. But she'd finally turned things around. But Yeah. She describes him as, "You were nailing the only man I ever loved." So it's hard to understand. It probably was not a mutual feeling, and she turns out she has a really bad radar for guys. If this is this and Sean are the two relationships we've known about, but I don't know. She still resents Dale about this.
So she has post her, huge crime. Like, I mean, the level of criminality here is, I assume, off the charts. Like,
sure, yeah.
If the moon has its own rules, if she's on a a Native American reservation or something, like, they could probably just lethal inject her and no one would. I don't think anyone would complain.
Sure, right? Yeah. Moon frontier justice. It's international waters, as we learn more later on.
But during this, as you heard, she has this stammering conversation with Dale, who's got her dead to rights. And this is just in the middle of it, I just want, for writers, this is a little writer's moment, a phrase to avoid. I forced some logic through the swirling vortex of anger in my brain. I had to be a big girl just for a minute. I didn't have to like it, but I had to do it.
Adulting, yeah.
Yes, in the middle of everything, that stuck out to me as like, wow, I still hate this, even though...
Yeah, and it also makes time for a gag that I think this is the fourth time they've done it. As she's, saying, he says, "Jazz, give me a reason not to call the EVA posse anything." Then it says your line right there. So he says, "Give me a reason not to call the posse. I'll give you 100,000 slugs." Okay, that's a pretty good reason.
He loves that gag.
Yes, it's on.
Man.
Yeah, so that lets him introduce, and it's always been about money, right? It's always just been, I won't do that. I'll give you $1 million. Fine.
Yes. No one has any deeper motivations. Everyone has the exact same motivations. Everyone's the same person, except one likes puppies and the other's gay. Like, there's no difference, and the other's is a devout Muslim or a observant Jew. But pretty much they have the same attitude and do the same thing.
Yes, they can all, speak to the camera like in the office, using the same, pretty much, you can tell who wrote the same thing. Yeah, they all can quip with the best of them.
And then this great moment, I'm sure you flagged this as well. How do I read this? This is going to be tough to read. It's a off the page gag, so I'll try it though. I began, but I suppressed the "you" in my throat. Oh.
Yeah.
I put that down as, that has to be dumb sentence of the week. People had to send that in by the thousands.
Oh, I flagged it immediately as that for me.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's barely even a sonic challenge because you did it pretty successfully, but the TA who taught my fiction writing 101 class in college just would have been like, I know you probably think you're the first person to come up with something like this, but really, really reconsider it. I wrote something that was like, it started and then it ended and it was circular, so it would keep going. And I just remember her being like, "This is not as clever as you think it is." And I being like, "I don't care. I'm using this." But it was like, she was 100% correct and really should have reconsidered. And that's what this is as well.
Circled with a red grease pen and
see me after class.
Yes, please. Please reconsider.
Yeah, so she then translates that into, she suppresses the FU and transitions into, because he says, "I don't want the money. I want us to hang out once a week again at the bar like we used to." So she transitions into, "Fine, I finished."
Oh, God.
Once a week doesn't mean we're friends, though.
Ugh.
But so she agrees to meet up with him, but then, is trying to negotiate with Tron because he wants the last harvester destroyed, says you need to finish this before you get any paid. But then she tries to go back and find a hideout and bumps into Rudy the super Mountie.
Rudy, it's hard not to do. Sorry.
Oh, Rudy with the Mountie suit and you're eating the pudding.
With the pudding and the Rudy. All right. I wanted to recreate this because it's the Mountie. It's just a short section. Do you have it there that starts with "Good afternoon, Jazz"?
Yep.
Would you play Jazz?
Of course.
Good afternoon, Jess. I've been looking for you.
You'll never take me alive, copper.
Is this a hull inspection bot? Why would you need one of these?
Feminine hygiene you wouldn't understand.
Let me hand it back to you. We need to talk.
Ever hear of...
There you go.
Wow, it's he remains constant as the Dudley Do-Right, but she lapses into who is that? Is that Jimmy Durante? No, not Jimmy Durante. Jimmy Cagney. Damn it.
Yes.
But then back into a sassy female Ghostbusters character.
Yeah, she talks about her own sass a lot, which I've got some strong comments and thoughts about that later. But yeah.
I do like the. I marked that as a. We've had a lot of them, but just take a look at the author moment as he trots out the feminine hygiene you wouldn't understand response that I think guys of a certain age think is just the way that women will explain away anything that they want men to be like. Fine, go on through.
Yeah, he really can write a woman. You got a lot of that coming up. Yeah. He really gets in the mind.
I like that she says hey, he says, I am here. And she says, is it something Canadian? Do you need to apologize for shit that isn't your fault or hold open a door for someone 20 meters away? So it's something's somewhat like heartening about the fact that stereotypes persist into the future. Canadian stereotypes from the early aughts, exist 80 years later.
Especially since that one, the holding the door, is one. I didn't know that, but I'll look into it about Canadians. I don't know.
And this is good too. This is something that I'm sure I've done, and it's once you notice it, it's just advice for writers out there. He says, I assume you heard about the Sanchez harvesters, and she says, you mean that top story on every local website? Yeah, I heard about it. So, are there a lot of local websites on the moon? Just, blogs, cataloging the music scene or like gossips and stuff. It's just local is something that every time you use it, it means that someone is pretty much like lying or panicked or just
right. Local. And so they're having a walk and talk here. I think as they walk through the moon. Bubbles, right?
Yeah,
you can all picture them if you've seen any sci-fi covers.
Old sci-fi covers, yeah.
Yes. Not my problem. I rounded a corner without warning to throw him off, but he kept up. He must have known I was going to do that. Dick. Like, wait, what? A moral judgment that he followed you when you took a right into a hallway? I mean, there might be some reasons not to like this guy, but that's not really one of them that I can see.
Definitely not. Yeah, the vigilanteism might be more of that, but it doesn't really speak to his prowess as a former Green Beret style guy that he's able to sense if you're going to take a right turn.
Right.
It's not quite Sherlock Holmesian. So she goes on to try to transfer him like 100 slugs, which he declines because you have to accept money sent to you, which is a dumb user interface thing. Like, why would you ever need to do that? But he says no, but she says, he says, I've known you since you were a little delinquent. You don't want to admit it, but you're just like your father. You have his business ethics. And so she says, so I pouted and looked away. Oh, I guess he was sending her the money. Then he says, you'll lie all day if we're just talking. But if I pay for the truth, that makes it a business deal. And a Bashara never reneges on a deal. So he's got a weird little tick like, Austin Powers has to ask the same question 3 times to the guy. Like she has the inability to lie if there's money involved in it, which is wildly stupid.
So that's how he's going to get her.
Yeah, it's he sniffed that out along the way. So she declines the transaction and says, well, I cannot tell a lie.
Oh, here's and then it goes into, I think that's after that, her sassiness and her own commenting on her sassiness.
Okay.
I ran out of smart-ass things to say. It's rare, but it happens once in a while. Is that what's supposed to have been happening this whole time?
Yeah. I ran out of witty one-line zingers and thrilling pop culture references that will, bemuse my very smart readers. It doesn't happen often, but when it does.
Yeah, it's like a when people do the but seriously, folks. I'm sorry, I was supposed to be laughing.
Well, the reason that he's been able to sort of get her dead to rights here is because he reviewed the security footage of her on the train, I guess, when she was in disguise wearing the garments that we don't know about because we're ignorant.
Mm-hmm,
he says Muslims don't bow to people. Even Muhammad didn't let anyone bow to him. They bow to Allah and no one else, ever. And she says, shit, I really should have known that. So, but I'm glad that the Mountie is then up on the nuances of religion that most people do not know about, though. It's I'm glad he's done his research. He's up on his Shiite and Sunni schism as well. He's well read on the subject.
Yeah, maybe that's how he's like, let's see. I'll follow. She's going to take a right in this hallway because that's what lapsed Muslims do. Not devout ones, but lapsed.
Yes, yeah. But she does keep up on the gossip. So yeah, let's pick up the pace a bit here as she rounds the corner.
Yes.
And he's immediately figured out what's happened. He knows that Trond is involved too. So he's just sort of doing like I know you did it. I'm just waiting for you to slip up so I can track you down. But he leaves her alone to go about her day as he tries to pin down I guess something that's not circumstantial evidence.
It's a weird. I'm having a hard time with the Rudy character, and there's more coming up. But he's a super buff, handsome, super handsome, right?
Yeah. Oh, she's later on.
Later on, slavers over him. Canadian Mountie wearing a Canadian Mountie uniform, although we get a clearer picture of what that is coming up. But for now, I'm just picturing Canadian Mountie uniform.
Yes, you have no reason not to at this point in time.
But he extracts vengeance on foreigners by beating the living crap out of wife beaters, as they used to say. I apologize for the term, but and then he's Columboing her to death. Just one more question for you. If you weren't on the train, and I know this is out of nowhere. What is? I don't get this character. What is it?
And is he earning a lot of money to do this? Why is he? Why is he gone to the moon to pursue this? Line of justice? Is he like a Dalton figure from Roadhouse? He killed a man in St. Louis, so he had to flee to the moon.
Heard you killed a man. Heard you said it was in self-defense. You heard that? The trial isn't open. You can just look at it. Anyway.
I don't know. We get a better picture of him later, though. So let's.
Yeah, it does. It comes into focus. But right now, I'm grasping. I don't know who this person is.
Well, we get it. Later on, we get more information about our main character that he has deigned to not meet out until over halfway through the book. So he's not super in on really bringing you along for the ride. He just wants you to remember Star Wars is his primary goal here. So
right.
She decides that she's going to go back to the bar, Hartnell's, named after a Doctor Who character.
Billy, yes.
To drown my misery in alcohol and testosterone, I'd have a few cheap beers, throw on something sexy, head to an Aldrin nightclub, and go home with a good-looking guy. Hey, I could even give Svoboda's condom a trial run. Why not? So it's the biggest mystery we have as we go forward is how that's going to play into this, because it is at the forefront of his mind. He reminds us every chapter that she's got it. And he keeps the joke going as Billy gives her a more homebrewed liquor that she says tastes like horseradish, even though it's rum.
Did you find, though, that there's a lot of intrigue, and it's I was worried she was going to get caught by Rudy, but then to just get this extended riff on the Doctor Who universe, just really it was like a warm bath for me, just slipping into.
Yes.
Oh, Billy. Must be something in the ethanol removal process. I do have a vodka to try out of your game, eh?
Oh, Billy.
I just loved it, yeah. Billy.
And he does the again. I think it's the second time she's ordered a beer and not been able to drink it because something's called her away. So that is another repeated beat.
He has a formula and he likes to stick to it.
She goes to I don't think she had ever thrown on the sexy outfit, though. She heads out to go see Trond, right? She goes straight to the bar. I don't think she's wearing something sexy. So I'm not sure when he just talked about that. I guess he just wanted to plant the image of his 20-something girl wearing something sexy to just make the Doctor Who stuff that much sweeter.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, we get her exact age coming up too.
Yeah, we do.
I'm gonna hang on to that one.
I will too, and I have a voice I'd like you to do as we read some of these things.
Okay.
But I'll spring on you when we get to them.
All right.
So she goes to see Trond, and Arena, the heavy-set, East German 1970s swimmer woman, does not answer the door, and she said, "Where was Arena?" And her trademark scowl. I'd already worked out some choice, smart-ass things to say to her, which is like the biggest tease in terms of him hinting at smart-ass quips she might make that she fails to deliver.
Well, let me see. I mean, beyond who pissed in your borscht, how are you going to top that? Is what I...
block the door much? Which, I thought of that right now as we were doing this. It's not far off from the witticism she's about to deliver. So but she gets inside. She sees a vase on the ground, a splash of bright red blood on the wall. Nope, I said. I spun on my heel and stormed back into the hallway. Nope. End of chapter. So she literally just nopes on out of there, Mike.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Nope.
The guys in Zero Dark 30, finally they see Osama in the thing. Nope. And nope
Doing
on out of the compound.
The finger, like the hand wave up next to the head. Nope. Waving him off. Yep.
I mean, you got to put yourself in the mind of a reader who maybe just encountered a nope meme in 2015 when they did this, but it might not have been painfully old and cliched at this point in time. I saw someone post a picture of a black snake they encountered in Northern Virginia on the Northern Virginia Reddit earlier this week. They referred to it as the nope rope. So I think that's the level of what we're dealing with here in this novel that you're supposed to be enjoying is that level of wit.
Another crumb of clue about possibly this being Klein. Doesn't he like to use things kind of well after their expiration date?
I think yes, absolutely.
All right, we're just building a case here.
Yeah.
We're not preponderance of evidence.
The readers can decide.
Yeah.
So she nopes on out, and we get a more reader emails exchange with Kelvin that they reminded me of like I don't know if you have someone, an accountant or whatever, and every time, every April when you're going to do your taxes, you have to do the how's things been? Like, oh yeah, you get out, you do this. I heard you were taking a trip. Like you do. All right, well, so here's my receipts. Like you got to do the terrible small talk every time.
Exactly.
So she does that with Kelvin as they start like making a scheme, I guess, but because he like tells her about his family and stuff. But she lays it on thick about Tyler is great. He's the sweetest, kindest man I've ever been with. I'm not the mushy short, and I never thought I'd say something like this. Seriously, he might be worth marrying. We've been together a year, and I love him. That's unheard of for me. The only real sticking point is all the sex with men he has. That's.
Yeah. I mean, in every way, he's fantastic. You couldn't have a better boyfriend. I mean, he's romantic. We go to dinner. He has a lot of sex with men. I'd like
reminded me of a setup for the late great Norm.
Yes, if you could take a big swig of whatever.
Yep, I got some
beverage
water,
of choice.
Yeah, icy and nice and cool.
I'll just continue with what you were reading. He's the opposite of what Sean was in every way. Tyler is considerate, loyal, devoted to me, and a total sweetheart. Plus, he's not a pedophile. Which is a major bonus over Sean. God, I can't believe I ever dated that asshole. Prose, lady, the sweet honey prose of Andy Weir.
And just absolutely incredible that is I presume, going to be the final payoff of my former boyfriend was banging a 14-year-old and got killed or beat up by a mob because of it. Yes. of that. That was the hang time on that bit.
The morals
brigade.
Brigade. Thank you.
So Tyler, by all accounts, seems great, but he's also got the bar lowered pretty well for him to waltz on in. He's eating Cheetos in his underwear on the couch, and she's like making doe eyes at him because he's not a pedophile.
It's the old classic Chris Rock thing, right? You don't get credit for that.
Yes. Yeah, not being a pedophile is what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
But hey, maybe there is a deep moral lesson to learn that he does at the end of the book, or that's the end of the joke there. So
yes.
And they essentially, Kelvin says, "Hey, down here they've introduced more rockets going up, so I only will be able to smuggle stuff onto half of them. So I'd like to bring in a third person to our operation so he can, run the other shift, and so we can keep up our rate of smuggling, essentially."
Yes. Yep. And that's where that ends.
Okay. Chapter 8 starts with her. She is trying to meet Rudy. Or she tells Rudy that there's been a murder probably, and he says stay there, and she also says nope to him. So that's a hard thing to turn off. And upon noping on out of there, she decides that she's going to go to Alan's Pantry, which is a upscale place, despite the fact that it sells junk food and kitschy souvenirs. And I just took a moment to imagine, the factory in China where they're assembling like the moon snow globes and stuff, and just being like, God, we're just making this stuff to send to the moon, like, and just sort of what the economics are of that operation.
I've always wondered that about, like, when you go into one of those, a tourist trap store or something, and you just, garbage from China. The people making it, who are like sitting in a factory for 14 hours a day or whatever, do they ever stop to go imagine the transaction of the person buying it? Or are they just trying to get through life? You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if they go like, idiot, and if they, they throw the next snow globe, here's one for you, dick, like.
I mean, back in the, early days of, before Riff Tracks, even when I was sending DVDs out of the Legend Films offices,
sure,
and you'd get someone who would order 12 DVDs of the old Shirley Temple show, like Shirley the Temple does Winnie the Pooh, and I would box that up, and even the people there were like, "Oh, this is really bad. Like, this is not Shirley's finest moment." Like, and you pack that up and just be like, "I wonder who this is for." So, I mean, every now and then, I bet they wonder who the Dollywood snow globe is for.
Well, I do like that you coined the phrase "Shirley the Temple" in that little story. That's a good one. I like that
Jimmy
one.
Durante the gangster and Shirley the Temple. This is another moment where I wondered about the editor. The clerk says, "Can I help you, madam?" asked the clerk. He wore a 3-piece suit. Who the hell wears formal clothes at a convenience store? I shook it off. No time to be judgmental. Just a great journey to be taken on in 4 sentences there.
This is also a tick of his. He's done that before, where he has his character just like dump on someone and then go, "Oh, but who am I to judge?"
Yes, but yeah, I mean, it's dumping on him, but it's also just filling us in on a detail that's worthless. Like he's obviously going to leave the store within seconds, but this 3-piece suit clerk is. I mean, I guess he's trying to world build.
I guess so. I don't know where this is. Maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I'll read this anyway. And language warning with all this stuff.
Okay.
I'm just reading it on. I'm in deep shit, Kelvin. I'll explain later. Oh, wait, did I put the bottom of the Kelvin? If he's talking to Kelvin. No, wait, is Kelvin calling her?
Oh, yeah, she calls Kelvin on the phone.
Okay, so I'm in the right place.
Yes.
Sorry. All of a sudden I saw Kelvin. I'm like, oh, those are letters. I'll explain later, but I have to make an alias right fucking now. I need your help. I stormed through the connector, cursing the god-awful communication latency. Damn it, lag.
Lag, wow.
The famous lag. Another data point.
Yeah.
This was written by Ernest Klein.
Damn it, Kelvin, why can't you move somewhere with better internet like Columbus, Ohio? I'm not familiar with Columbus, Ohio. I live in Kenya, and I have reinforced that I have a family that I'm supporting. So,
yes,
yeah, it's like they say it's a 4-second lag. I think forever after saying everything, it would be maddening.
That's huge. Yeah.
and she goes on to she bought all that junk food, I guess, so she can hide out somewhere. But then she's going to get an alias. Maybe Kelvin helped her set this up. She ran to the main concourse of Bean Ground.
Yes.
The nearest hotel was called the Moonrise Inn. Pretty stupid name if you think about it. Artemis is the only city in existence that can't see a moonrise. And I just thought maybe you should get deported. You really don't seem to like it here.
No.
You criticize just about everything. Like
you hate the tourists. You talk constantly about the sex trade. Just must be amazing there. Like,
and your sex reputation.
Your reputation is garbage.
You're pretty much Hester Prynne. So not sure.
No one likes you.
Your
or
best friend.
respects you.
Yeah, you stole your man. Like it's awful. But who knows? Maybe that will end up happening. And then she goes. This was very confusing to me. She's getting the gizmo that I guess Kelvin helped her set up, but she says, just as I had done with Nuha Nejem, I picked up a hotel gizmo for Harpreet Singh. An Arab looks the same as an Indian to clueless hotel clerks. But she's not wearing a hijab and niqab, is she this time?
No.
She just walked into a hotel, and the guy's like, "Oh, hey, Jazz, remember me from band camp?" And she's like, "No, I'm Harpreet Singh."
Yes.
Like it was very confusing to me. I didn't. It was, and then she's also on the surveillance. Anyway, not worth.
Also, drive by to clueless hotel clerks. Like I can tell that I don't know. I mean,
we're in what is seemingly one of the more international communities that's ever existed in the world. Like
I read in the evenings about different cultists. I have to greet them all the time.
Yes, I try to better myself. What do you do with your evenings?
Jeez.
So that's interesting. But we get a little news article that says there's been only 5 other murders in the history of the moon, and it's the first double homicide. So that's a interesting data points.
Yes, and let's see. The article went on, but I didn't want to read anymore. I put the gizmo on the cold floor, huddled in the corner, hugged my knees and buried my face, and started to cry. And then this is what she says about Tron. And I'm like, oh, well, this is nice. And then it was kind of a, what, huh? Tron was a good guy. Okay, that's nice. Maybe a little underhanded, and he wore that stupid bathrobe everywhere, but he was a good guy. Again, that's nice. And a good dad. Oh, sweet. God, who was going to take care of Leanie? I don't know. Mutilated in a car crash as a kid and then orphaned at age 16. Jesus, what a shitty draw. Sure, she had money, but fuck. That took a little bit of a turn there.
Sure.
Sometimes he was a wonderful, warm human being, but fuck.
Sometimes you start something and don't really know where you're going to finish by the time you start saying it. But when you're writing, you can always go back and edit that if you choose to. But
that is true.
It goes on to have another moment like that where sort of has a discussion with herself that I'm glad we got to be there for the ride for. She says, I assumed the amnesty for ratting out Trondoffer was off the table. Trond was dead. So if I went to Rudy, I would A, give him all the evidence he needed to get me deported, and B, not help him solve the murders at all. No, fuck that. All right, yes. Good. Glad we had a discussion here. It's good to suss that out.
I once had an editor tell me I had a list in something, and it was like a short piece, and I wrote a list. Mm-hmm. And my editor goes, "Oh, lists, those are funny." Like, no,
devastating.
This one is. He's like, reconsider. I'm like, okay.
With the book that we talked about that we just finished this weekend, tomorrow, Lauren would it was nails on chalkboard anytime there were lists, of which there were plenty. And she would just, I'd be driving and she'd just be like, list! As they went through. It was a stylistic device that we did not agree with. But speaking of stylistic devices, I sniffled back the last of my tears and cleared my throat. Then I called Dad's number through a local proxy service. So that's probably a service one of those local websites also uses, I would say.
Oh, yeah. What was the in Ready Player One, the different levels of going into a chat window inside of like the game.
Chat room, chat link, chat window. Yes, it was all.
Yeah, so this sounds like one of those, kind of.
Yes. It's also something that you're evidently able to just, access upon needing them. So you'd think that the moon Mountie might be tapping into those, but evidently not. It's
well, at least she's making amends with her father here. Mm-hmm. They have like a short phone call that ends which is nothing. It's just
yeah. It sort of says, "I'm alive, but I can't do anything. I can't see you."
Yeah, and so she says Rudy's going to take care of it, right? Like just let Rudy solve this murder. And then about him, she says, "Sure, he cared more about murder than my smuggling operation, and I'd be a lot safer if I just came clean. He might be an asshole, but he was a good cop. He'd do everything he could to protect me." Who the hell is Rudy? Who is this character? He's a good cop. She loathes him.
Wants to bang him.
But what is this?
It's the second time that in as many comments as she said, he's a good guy. He sucked big time and I hated him. But, make up your mind. I guess you can... Yeah, being a good cop doesn't preclude him from being a jerk to her, but whatever.
Oh, wow. Not to be judgmental, but...
Here's a question, and this is 100% ignorance. It stuck out to me, but maybe I'm not as wise as that hotel clerk that reads up on these things in his spare time. Jazz's father is saying, I guess his voice had risen a full octave, so he's saying, "You come home right now, Jasmine!" And then he says, "For the love of Allah, don't tangle with murderers." And I just don't. Is that something people actually say? It didn't turn up a lot of results. People saying that.
I circled that too.
Like Chris Farley saying, "For the love of God, let the boy sleep in the." But so it just. And every time I say "let us know," like too many people write in and let us know. But it struck me as something that might be a little joke by him.
I felt the exact same way, but I didn't explore it online. But I thought it does not strike me. I don't think
real thing.
Using the name in vain like that is something
true.
to do.
Yes,
but
for the guy who's installing his custom prayer rug,
anti-gravity prayer rug. Yeah.
How about this? This was sort of a waha kind of moment to me. I woke up the next morning with cramped legs and a sore back. That's the thing about crying yourself to sleep. When you wake up, the problems are still there. Sure.
Wait, huh?
Not worth dwelling on, but it just sounds more profound than it actually is if you examine it for half a second.
She's eating gunk and trying to figure out what's going on. So she says this: "I knew where to start. Jin Chu. He was the guy at Tron's house the day I delivered the cigars. He was from Hong Kong. He had a box labeled Zaffo, and he tried to hide it from me. That's all I had."
That's incredible. It's like it's like Wikipedia almost. But I was personally glad they reminded us in such elementary school detail who he was, because I had forgotten. But it's not very elegant or gracious to your readers in terms of their intelligence.
But it's very funny that what's the only thing that was brought up before that hasn't been mentioned again? Why, it's Jin Chu. So that must be the solution. Yep, in the world of this book, that is 100% true.
Yes.
But in any other book, you would never, Dashiell Hammett, there's a whole world you'd have to think about. You would not remember that saucy bartender I met that one night after that dame got killed? Mm-hmm. It must be him. No, he's one of 1,000 people that you've run across.
Right. Nope. This was just a guy who, tried to hide, behind his back what he was delivering to someone in the most suspicious way possible.
And Zaffo.
Yeah. Well, we get clarification on that.
For sure.
I like that she says, I poked around online, but I couldn't find anything about him. Whoever he was, he kept a low profile, or he'd come to Artemis under an alias. Well, you've made it clear that that's insanely easy to do, so it was probably that, right? You've gotten 2 aliases in the first 8 chapters of this book.
Plus, you're only checking the local websites. You should probably branch out as you look for this guy.
But so she is hiding out in a nook somewhere, and but she decides to head on out, and here we go.
Oh boy,
she is. This is actually, I'm sure you have it, but this whole little subsection here, I thought that it would be good to have Dom DeMillo read it.
Is the buying of the thing?
Yes, yeah, the secondhand shop, and
I hit a secondhand shop.
Yes,
I have that all written down.
Yeah.
So Don DeMillo is. I hit a secondhand shop in Conrad and bought the hell out of an outfit. The bright red miniskirt so short you can almost call it a belt. A sequin top that exposed my midriff. A little something for the fellas there. And the tallest heels I could find. I topped it off with a large red patent leather handbag, then off to a hair salon for a quick updo. And voila, I was now a floozy. The girls at the salon rolled their eyes at me as I jacked myself out in the mirror. The transformation was disturbingly easy. Sure, I have a nice body, but I wish it had been a little more effort to become so trashy. So, there you go.
Little something for daddy. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what you could imagine Andy Daly transposed onto the flat cap guy.
Oh, absolutely,
Andy
yes.
and Andy. That's
yeah.
So that's how I interpreted that section of just like, oh yeah, now she's that nice body is becoming trashy. Oh yeah, that's.
I did. I just also wrote the note like, ladies, accurate. Is this how it works?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like a reverse Pretty Woman scenario type of thing, or Sandra Bullock in Miss Congeniality being like, oh wow, like this normal just one of the guys thing became very hot so easily. That's stunning. Like wow.
She took her glasses off and her hair came down. She's hot.
So yeah, I think that was what he meant to do. Like, when she said she was earlier going to do this, she's now, he copied and pasted this because it's a little separated by two like M dashes into this thing. So I think he just pasted it into the wrong section. She was supposed to be a floozy as she went to the murder scene or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was very confused by that. Yeah. Huh.
But then she goes on to do some more Columboing. As she tries to suss out where Jin Chu might be.
Yes.
She says, I see this all the time. Tourists love to sample our local cuisine. Problem is, our cuisine sucks. It's made of algae and artificial flavors. Within a few days, the Americans want pizza, the French want wine, and the Japanese want rice. Food makes you comfortable. It's how you recenter. Jin Chu was from Hong Kong. He'd eventually want proper Cantonese food. So that's well done. Well done, Snoop sister.
And it finishes with this, which I have to admit, if you say, like, did the book make you laugh? Yes, the stupidity of this made me laugh. So we had an important travel-savvy guy from Hong Kong who'd want home cooking. One establishment fit the bill perfectly. The Canton Artemis. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Did you really even have to think that through? How many people are there on the moon?
Yeah, 2,000. And there manages to be a luxury 5-star hotel catering to the Chinese elite, owned and operated by Hong Kong business outfit interests. So what percentage of the 2,000 people does this employ? You think about going to like the White Lotus, where there's a staff who will fold your napkin when you get up from the table. It's a gigantic operation. So that's that's like, oh God, we got to hope the Chinese tourism continues, because if the Canton Artemis goes away, that's like just a huge hit to our economy. And it is, again, like you said, the Dashiell Hammett world, where all these pieces you would have to refer back to every time something needs to come along for the thing. They mention it for the first time and say, well, it must have been that. It's fantastic.
That's just good writing. And then she here again is that the attention to detail, really getting inside a character and a place and really setting the stage, and then just crackling prose. She goes as a whore to the Canton Hotel. An old Asian lady manned the concierge desk. So there you go. There's that. Did that paint a picture for you?
It did, yeah. Especially once you consider that, it's it says owned and operated by Hong Kong business interests. It's like, do you think that maybe you could even just say she's Chinese? You could narrow it down there. I guess she said you couldn't tell the difference between an Indian and a Saudi Arabian, but...
it's the subtlety and really, really getting below the surface.
Yeah, but he does show respect here because he says she walks up and is dressed like a floozy, and it says the concierge gave me a look that told me I defended her and her great ancestors. Which is so she's
wow.
That's going into like what was the detergent from the 70s? The
ancient Chinese secret, huh?
That's bordering on that, yeah. Like
wow.
hachi machi. But then it says that it just struck me as very funny that the whole sex talk, the whole sex worker thing from the first 6 chapters that we thought was really laid on thick existed just to justify this.
Yes.
It says hotels like the Canton won't contact a guest just because someone claimed to be meeting them, but rules get bent when sex is involved. It's like, I don't think that would even be the case unless this is actually like a brothel. Like, cause like, it seems like it's even less than a reason to like, you have a 5-star business from Hong Kong that's like, hey, guy who owns AliExpress, there's a hooker outside that wants your hotel room. It's like, how dare you? Like,
we have secret floors to protect people like me. We don't just let up someone because they smeared on lipstick.
Right? Yeah, we're going to one of the moons of Mars to do the horrible stuff that we're into. Like, since it's evidently illegal here, but please do not send any more prostitutes to my room. And then it becomes truly incredible. I think we had remarked that it seems sort of like this, like a 90s Sierra adventure game, but it becomes full out Leisure Suit Larry here. She's had to dress up like a prostitute, and then has the ancient Chinese secret lady look up his room, and she says there's no answer, and she says like he still has to pay me, whatever, and she leaves, and she says. The lipstick adjustment earlier, had it just been for show, I'd placed the compact so I could see the concierge's computer screen in the mirror. When she looked up at Jinchu, it popped up as room number 124, which is, I think, just incredible. Because that would be like, use lipstick compact on monitor, and like, as a little points thing as the character does it and pulls it back and tucks it right behind her back as the Chinese lady looks back at her. But I think that's great.
And then she goes up and talks to the NPC that is the bartender at the...
Yep.
What can I get you?
Yeah. Clicks on, something from the rail? No, that clicks on the expensive stuff. Okay, have you got Balmore's 15-year single malt? Indeed we do, ma'am. And he warns her how much money it is for a 2-ounce pour, and then promptly gets it, tips it, and then pours a little out on the floor for Trond. Have you ever tried to pour... like a little bit out of a small glass? Like it's very difficult to not pour the entire thing out. So it's
especially as the crisp white-shirted hotel lobby bartender staring right at you. Like what are you doing?
Right. Yeah, I'm just pouring this out like a 40. For my guy who got shot. It's you do not do that here, even though.
Please don't do that. You are, of course, now barred. Yes. We have facial recognition. You'll never be back here again.
No, I'm Harpreet Singh.
I can tell the difference between an Indian and an Arab, and.
Well, speaking of everything that this book has been building towards, Leisure Suit Larry games, incredible Ready Player One references. She's wondering how she's finally going to get into the elevator.
Oh, yes.
A huge guy who's guarding it. You want to share?
Oh, well, this has just struck me again. We've written it down many times. Glad to see that this is still a thing on the moon. In 2081, did we determine this?
Yeah, it's unclear, but yeah, it's 2080s.
Okay, here we go. He wasn't likely to fall for bullshit. Maybe I could find some tall or fat and literally someone tall or fat and literally hide behind them. That seemed a little too Buster Keaton to actually work. Buster Keaton.
Perfect.
Star of the 1900s and 20s. Maybe into the 30s. I know he lived long and he was in movies in the 50s, so don't get on me. I know that. But that was his prime, was the 20s and 30s. So On the moon, still a big thing.
Not even just Kelvin, who's a sort of a square, a nerd. He could be just like, I'm sending you a link to the funny movies I've been watching. They might seem a little old, and it's hard to watch something black and white. But trust me, give this Buster Keaton a thing, and see if you like it. And she's like, all right, I didn't like it at first, but it was pretty impressive. He did all that stuff without CGI. The easiest way to justify stuff like that, I have a friend back on Earth who's obsessed with the Earth culture of the 20th century, but not even the barest effort.
Yeah, there's I know a young fella who's in a pretty popular local band. He's a drummer, and once he came up to me. I know him from our church, and he goes, "Hey, I've been watching a lot of the Marx Brothers lately. Really loving this stuff." And I mean, he's in his 20s or whatever. I'm like, Marx Brothers? How? It's like, I don't know. I heard you mention it one time, so I started watching it. And it just struck me as very funny. This, a drummer for a very hot band sitting at home at night, like watching Duck Soup.
Right, but I mean, there's also a personality type that I very much had as a young person, where it's like you realize that there's some sort of canon, and like you for whoever's agreed on that you're reading. Rolling Stone magazine when I was 16, it's like, here's the best albums, here's the best movies, the AFI list, and you're like, well, I want to be in on this, so I'm going to seek out these things. So it's a legitimate way of framing stuff. Jazz has not exhibited a single bit of curiosity or like desire to, fit in or better herself. So it's
not at all. She seems like a very, very, very shallow, garbage person for the most part.
True, yes.
There's nothing.
I wrote at some point in time, I have something like, if anyone is still rooting for her, I think it was when she bought all those snacks and was like, the bag I stuffed them all into had the moon on it. Real fucking original. It's like, if you're still rooting for this person, please let me know. And I know you don't have to root for protagonists. The Succession finale airs this weekend, and I hope people go to prison or die.
Right.
But like, you at least, that's not, I don't think, what he's going for here. He's supposed to, she's sassy. Like, she's not evil.
Right.
In his mind.
Yeah. So at the bar, though, she is, once again, this is, I think she or he really paints a picture here with his sensitive and, again, crackling prose. I felt a tap on my shoulder. An Asian man in his mid-50s sat next to me. He wore a three-piece suit and an ugly comb-over. And then he propositions her, and she, pretends to take him up on it. So.
Yeah, she hates every single tourist. It does seem like she needs a change of scenery, I think. That would do her well.
An Asian man. Now, you are at the Canton Express or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. It just, that one kind of made me tug at my collar. Like, come on.
Right. Hey, I mean, I guess if you're not necessarily a evil guy, if you're going to the moon for sex trafficking, it's just, it's what people do. And she's made it clear that that's accepted. So there's no judgment on this man that she's clearly judging.
Right.
But yeah, I think we did this real fanfic. We didn't realize the stakes of what was going on here, but I don't know if it ended with this thing. She says, she stood up from the bar and downed my Balmore. I assume everyone in Scotland gasped in psychic pain. You just poured some of it on the floor, so I guess they're probably happier that you're drinking it. And then the sort of Sierra game, Leisure Suit Larry stuff continues, because she just goes up to the room and just says, how is she going to get out of this, having sex with this man for money. And what does she do? She fakes a phone call. She says, sorry, I have to make a call. She points at the gizmo for emphasis. I held up my gizmo to her ear. Rocky. Yeah, it's Candy. I'm with a customer. What? Oh, no, she didn't. I closed Grandpa's room door so I could talk to my pimp in private. He'd probably wait a good 15 minutes before he figured out I left. Sure, I was ditching a horny businessman, but I hadn't taken his money. I was ethically in the clear. Our hero.
I just, again, the teacher circling with the thick grease pen. Rocco, Candy, you can do better. This is not, you can't do this.
Right. Just do the improv exercise. Like, pimp names, go. Like, name 7 of them, go around. Okay. Prostitute names, go. Don't use the first one. You go down the list. Make it a little cleverer. I don't know. But then she, to end the chapter, she slinks on over to room 124. looks left and right as you do when you're sneaking around in a cliche movie, and then she pulls a screwdriver from my gaudy purse and jimmied the lock. So piece of cake. I thought she was going to take a business card and do that thing where she slides it down. But then,
but kids, by the way, jimmying, huh? Jimmying locks. We all know what that means. Yeah.
In the hotel that had a guy stationed at the elevator to 5-star security for the discreetness of everything that's going on.
Yes.
Jimmyable locks. But then when she opens the door, a grizzled Latino man sat on the bed, his right arm in a sling. He gripped a Bowie knife in his left hand. And so, it's this like the second most disturbing thing to encounter after that guy in the bear costume in The Shining and the businessman. If you're ducking into a room, I'm surprised. I'm frankly shocked he didn't send him into room 237 or something like that.
That's true.
Yeah. Room 237. Oh, the Shining room. What a coincidence.
Yeah. Klein, you crafty son of a gun.
That's the end of that chapter.
Well, except for the brief
the letters,
letter.
Yes.
With Kelvin.
Kelvin.
Yeah. Oh, they're doing a thing of smuggling foam insulant. Those foam sprays that expand?
Yes.
So I guess at cheap places you can fill in the cracks, then you get a little bit of quiet.
Okay.
And so they're making a killing on that. And then he says, like, I've got our third.
Yeah, our third wheel we're going to cut in.
So let me, can I do it? And that's all it is. It's like, sure, go ahead and send me 2 cases of foam insulant.
Yeah, this is interesting. Someone pointed this out. I didn't notice it because it was fairly subtle. He says, Dear Jazz, glad to hear about the sales of the foam insulant. We're making a killing. I'll send another 2 cases in the next probe. So keep that in mind. More email, blah, blah, blah. But then she says, Dear Kelvin, make it 2 cases of foam insulant. What does that mean? Is it an error? I'll send 2 cases in the next probe. Make it 2 cases. I don't know if it's a...
I know there's a 4-second lag, but are you all right? You head injury, okay?
Maybe it's just because she's hung up, because she says, Tyler and I are done. I don't want to talk about it. End of email. So whatever just had happened, she caught him with Dale or whatever. And so maybe that's why she's so shaken that she says, make it 2 cases, when he clearly said, I'm going to send you 2 cases.
Oh, yes. I suppose we've all had emails where we, say the same thing or the opposite of what we, like, come on, hey, man, pay attention.
Jazz has to, per my last email, her.
Yes. Just resend her the email with no comment. I said 2.
All right. Well, that's the end of chapter 8. That's halfway. So I think that's just about the right time to do some real or fanfic.
Oh, boy.
Fanfic. Real fanfic.
All right. So this is real or fanfic, the segment where we're going to quiz Mike on whether these next 5 sections are from later in Artemis, real sections, or fanfic written by our beloved Patreon supporters, the jackals, over at patreon.com/372pages. We watched Forrest Gump with them last week, as promised, because we hit 1,000 supporters. It was, what's your 2-sentence review of that experience?
It is everything I thought it would be, which I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah, not a lot of surprises, I would say. I mean, a competent, executed well movie, for the 90s, good acting, but just, if you were around in the 90s, you saw a lot of parodies and quotes about it, and that stands in pretty well, I think, for you needing to see the movie.
It reignited my rage over once a friend and I were on, it was in San Diego on the beach, and I just said, hey, I've been sprinting a lot, so I'm going to sprint down the beach. He goes, I'll sprint with you. And so we ran down the beach, just sprinted as fast as we could, and a bunch of people started yelling, run, Forrest, run. And I was enraged. Like, I'm having a foot race with my friend. Like, it's intense. Run, Forrest, run. I was just like, I had to do the half stop and the arms out. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Having never seen it. And now I hate it even more. Like, it doesn't make it better now that I've seen it and understand it.
You turned around and you started like walking towards those people aggressively, and they go, "Nope, nope, nope, nope,
Nope,
nope,
nope, nope. Yes. They turned on their heels and went away.
Yeah, but it's you should go over there and check that out. We posted the audio if you're crazy enough to try to sync that up. But yeah, we appreciate everybody. You get every episode a week early. It's a lot of fun. Please check it out. Here's the 5 sections. Here's number 1. Jazz, get down from there, Dale said. What is it you hope to accomplish? He had a point. I was sitting on a glorified tractor in the middle of the most remote location in all of civilization. What could I hope to accomplish? But I had an ace in the hole. I opened my EVA's radio to the broadest frequency band. I was still facing Dale, but everyone could hear me now. All right, listen up, dicks. This is the last functioning harvester on the moon. See this shiny red button? Of course, no one Dale could see it. This was a radio transmission, after all. It painted a vivid picture, though. When I press it, myself, this harvester, the entire city's oxygen supply go bye-bye. She's not kidding, people, Dale said. A chorus of voices broke out on that open frequency with comments ranging from terrorist to brown asshole to the classic, that bitch. Fear really brought out the worst in people. In reality, the contraption was an assembly of spare parts from Svoboda's lab I'd thrown together. Real-life bombs don't tend to have big red buttons. That's only in the movies.
Wow, that's good. What was the slurs that were thrown out there?
Terrorist, brown asshole, and the classic, that bitch.
Brown asshole. Is it? Interesting one.
Yeah, it's doubly unfortunate on several levels.
Very, very unfortunate. I don't know. I'm going to say real.
Okay. Number 2. Fuck. Make that holy fuck. Make that goddamn holy fuck. For those of you who have never experienced the pull of 6 times your normal gravity, and I'm thinking that's most of you, it's hard to put it into words. Consider giving a piggyback ride to William Taft, who in turn is giving a piggyback ride to Louis Anderson. That might get you halfway there, but the short of it is, it sucks ass. There was no way I was getting to my feet. Not yet. The best I could do was prop myself up on my hands and knees. Not exactly the look I was going for as a first impression, but it beat laying flat on the floor. The door opened and in walked the man who was going to smuggle me back to the moon. Hello, Jazz, Kelvin said. It is such a pleasure to finally meet face to face. Welcome to Kenya.
Well, I think it's brilliant, but I have to say fanfic.
All right. Number 3. I crawled back into my hiding place and sealed the panel behind me. I curled up into a ball in the dark. I was so goddamn tired I should have fallen asleep right then, but I couldn't. It all caught up with me. Constant danger, poverty, anger, and worst of all, sheer unmitigated fatigue. I'd gone beyond sleepy into what my father used to call overtired. He usually used that term while chucking my cranky 8-year-old ass into my bunk for a forced nap. I tossed and turned as much as I could in the cramped confines. No position was comfortable. I wanted to pass out and punch someone at the same time. I couldn't think straight. I had to get out of there. I kicked open the panel. Who gives a fuck if someone sees me? I didn't. Where now? I mumbled to myself. I felt a wet droplet hit my arm. I looked to the ceiling. The frigid air of Bean Down 27 often made condensation points. Water's surface tension versus lunar gravity meant a bunch of it had to build up before it started dripping. But I didn't see anything above me. Then I touched my face with my hand. Oh, God damn it. The source of the water was me. I was crying.
God, these are hard. Coin flip fanfic.
Okay. Number 4. Secured in the suit, I sprinted into the antechamber and slammed the first door shut. I spun the airlock wheel as if my life depended on it, and the barren lunar landscape greeted me as the door slowly slid open. I hit the surface at a run, my strides long and bounding in the low gravity. A few seconds later, Dale exited the airlock. Despite my head start, he was gaining on me, fast. I jumped over the rope fence and made a break for the landing site. As I gazed over my shoulder, I saw Dale rip one of the fence posts from the regolith and brandish it like a sword. Don't make me do this, Jazz. Tell me where Tron left the evidence and we can all go home, he said into the comms as he slowly advanced towards me. Shit. One nick in my EVA suit and I was as good as dead. The only way I was getting out of this is if I made myself as unappealing a target as possible. Good old mutual assured destruction. As I cast about for anything I could use to fend him off, a white glimmer next to my boot caught my eye. I bent down and pulled, and 100 years of lunar dust fell away to reveal red, white, and blue. I gripped the Apollo mission flagpole with both hands and settled into my best impression of a fighting stance.
Oh, boy. Oh, that was set up, so it's clever either way. But I'll say fanfic.
Okay. And the final one, number 5. While pondering that particular conundrum, my gizmo buzzed. Svoboda was calling. Talk to me, Svobuddy. Any word on Rudy? Quite a bit, actually. Remember that bottle you recovered from his trash? I took a swab from the rim and sent it to Dubček, a geneticist friend of mine. And you're never going to believe what came back. Let me guess. He's 20% Northern European, 10% Native American, and 70% asshole? Very, very funny, Jazz. No, I ran my DNA results versus the buccal swab Rudy took when he immigrated, and they don't match. This Rudy guy isn't who he claims to be. The revelation threw me for a loop. Then who is he really? As far as I can tell, his name is Ernest Belgrano. Born in Buffalo, New York, worked 15 years as a mercenary before seemingly falling off the face of the earth. Looks like the falling off the face of the earth part was more literal than anyone realized. So, he's not really a Mountie? Jazz, he's never even been to Canada.
Oh, that's very good, too. I'm going to roll the dice and say that's fanfic as well. Okay. I don't feel good about this week.
Well, they're incredibly tricky. I feel like he's got a very easy to imitate style just because it's so cliche. I don't know. Like it's
yeah. Put yourself in the mind of a 10-year-old writing a joke or anything, and you're fine.
Throwing some swears and some. All right. Well, let's go through. I do think this was a tricky one. Number 1 was bombs with the big red button. People shouting slurs at her. You suggested this was real, and that was fanfic, unfortunately. Submitted by Matt. Number 2. So this was her ending up in Kenya, piggyback ride to Taft, who's giving one to Louis Anderson. You said fanfic, and that was fanfic by Mike T. Okay. That one, I thought that was pretty funny. So I thought it was hard.
That's on point. There's
nothing
about
exactly. It was the sort of thing where if you said it was real, you'd be like, yeah, no. But we've had those happen. Number 3, this was when she realized she felt her face, realized she was crying. And you said fanfic, but this was real. Submitted because the chap submitted it, said he thought it was particularly Kleinian in terms of her not realizing what her face was doing. And I almost
myself crying.
I almost scrapped this on the fly because she was crying earlier, right? In the in her nook, like so I was like,
that's why I thought it was fanfic.
So that is what you are 1 for 3.
I'm 1 for 3.
Okay, and number 4 is picking up the Apollo flag and brandishing it. Dale, you said fanfic. That was fanfic submitted by John. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty nicely set up for later. I don't know. I feel maybe if it had been Rudy, would that have helped more if she was going after him? Dale turns on her. Anyway,
yes.
They're going amok time on the moon.
Yes.
A reference I'm sure Jazz would understand.
Then
finally, so that's 2 for 4. Finally, the final one was Dubček, and Rudy has never been to Canada. He's not Canadian. He's named Ernest Belgrano. You said fanfic. And that was fanfic. So submitted by Max. That's 3 for 5. I didn't even pick up until Ernest Belgrano, a little Klein nod there.
Yeah,
but if he was throwing in Gunter and stuff, that's not beyond him.
It's called Artemis. I mean,
so 3 for 5. That's not bad.
Yes. If I'm a batter, I'm happy.
Sure. If you were doing confidence wagers, you probably have not put a lot of money on them, but let's see. Keep them coming next time. It's the last one. Next episode will be the last opportunity for Artemis reading our fanfic.
Yep.
All right. Let's go to chapter 9 as she's encountering this one-armed assassin in room 124. And as she says herself, she doesn't stand much of a chance against a armed angry assassin. She says, "I was just a helpless, exposed girl with no weapon. Why waste time? Just slit my throat." But she, also has Matrix bullet time reflexes, which she neglects to mention. They come in handy because he lashed at me with her knife, but she twisted out of the way. What else does she do?
I'm gonna. This is the pros. I'll finish it off, and I'm giving it an F- because very few action scenes. Right? It opened, I guess, with an action scene.
Yep. Yeah. And
I give that one a
fire.
C.
Sure.
C-. Yeah. The fire maybe a C. Certainly no higher than that. But I jerked my purse to my neck just in time to block his attack. His lightning-fast strike slashed the purse open and the contents spilled out. That would have been my throat. He assumed I'd be halfway through dying after that assault, so he left himself a little open. That's just terrible. I'm sorry. That's terrible.
It is terrible. The contents spilled out. That's like
that would have been my throat is a full... He assumed I'd be halfway through dying after that assault.
Yeah, the last sentence really ties it together when she puts herself in his in his mindset a quarter second after he's lunged at her with a knife.
She's able to see his assumptions and know. Anyway, I just think it's awful.
Yeah, and so in the way she describes that, he does the knife slash, but then does the turn around and walk away from explosion type of thing, essentially being like. He's doing that by the time he's like halfway through slashing because he's assuming that her neck contents are going to spell out instead of her purse contents.
I slashed something and things came out. Sure, it was a screwdriver used to jimmy doors, but that's what people have in their throats, so I'm turning away.
But then she also just pretty much like knocks him over and into the hallway because he wasn't expecting an attack or something like that. So that's she just what can't she do is essentially the way she gets out of here.
But in the process of all of this, because he had been slashed by Irina, I guess, in the murder.
Yeah, Irina or Trond, exactly. Yeah, the Borscht woman.
Because of that, he had was down a wing, as they say, and so she nicknames him. And I think this is because she leans on this very heavily. And so get ready to laugh. She calls him Lefty. So that's what she calls him, and calls him that a lot.
It's pretty good.
So
it makes you wonder what she was going to say to Irina when she didn't answer the door. We're left to puzzle. It's like Tenacious D forgetting the greatest song they ever wrote and having to rely on the tribute. We're left to imagine the great what ifs of literature.
Oh yeah, yes. The Beatles were going to wear masks and go on a bar tour. Oh, what if? What if you had just shown up at a Wisconsin bar and the Beatles played for you? We're left to imagine that.
We are. Yes, I think it's quite similar. Peter Jackson's documentary about the writing of Artemis. I'd watch all 6 hours of it. I like this too as well. He's in the hallway. She's locked the door, bolted it. I guess it was good that the metal door and the deadbolt had not been locked because she couldn't have jimmied that. But she says, a few other rooms opened up. Confused guests peeked at the action. Lefty hadn't exactly been quiet. He took stock of the situation and of the very large security guard. That wasn't something he could stab his way out of. He looked at the door longingly, then scampered off. So this moon assassin is a scamperer.
Yes.
And I wondered, where you scamper off to on the moon, just because it is a sort of she's found a place to hide. But it turns out that it's fairly easy because she says to the security guard, are you all right, ma'am? Yeah, it was all just weird is all. Aren't you going after him? He had a knife. Best to let him go.
What?
So that's the level of security that the non-Mounties are giving you on the moon. A assault with a knife is carried out, but we're going to let them run.
That really security guard? They live for like running after some dude with a knife?
Yeah.
I like you get to like pull out that baton that you'd never use and just wail on some dude.
Yeah, it's like guys at a baseball game when idiots run on the field. That's what, you only get one of those a year.
Yeah, get those zip ties around him and just wail on him.
Yeah, he did assault me with that knife. He wasn't just keeping it around in case he got confronted by Crocodile Dundee or something. He did use it to try to kill me. So there's a chance he does that again. He's already killed one person, 2 people. Oh well, it's like in the movies where it's like. They're launching a rocket. Wait a second, we've got an alarm. Ignore that. Like, well, why do we have alarms or security guards here?
That's probably a squirrel. Stop it. So, as you and I both know, in writing, there's only so many. There's a word count. Like words are parsed out and slashed, and so when you get something, you assume it's important, and you pay attention because you only have so many pages to explain your story. So here you go.
Yeah.
I was about to leave when I noticed the safe in the closet. It's one of those things you don't even pay attention to. The wall-mounted safe had an electronic lock with instructions on how to set it. Pretty simple, really. It starts disarmed, you put your shit in it, then set the code. It'll keep that code until you check out. You just spent a paragraph explaining hotel safes to us?
Ladies and gentlemen, please remember, a hotel safe has an electronic lock. Ladies and gentlemen, please. It's pretty simple. Really, it starts disarmed. Incredible.
I was enraged by that. Like, come on, man. My life is short. Hotel safes work.
Pretty much something, yeah. If you've been in a hotel, you've learned this. Even if you haven't used it, you've probably taken the time to look at it, and it hasn't changed in 50 years since we've gone to the moon. So it's good to know that it still works the same way.
But nothing about the pros makes you go like, oh, okay, so, I've never looked at, it's not like David Sedaris encounters an electronic safe or something.
Right,
and
yes.
There's not like
a new angle on it. Yeah.
Yes, arch like observations about it and explanation. It's just, there you go. Here's how you run a hotel safe. Thought you might need that in the middle of this giant book.
Yeah, he doesn't even ask what the deal is with them or anything. There's no observation. There's nothing new to take away. But if you thought it was weird that you needed to over the top explanation, the movie over the top, literally, about how hotel safes work. This is what she gives you 2 paragraphs later when it says, when she's doing another Leisure Suit Larry, under a killing moons type of adventure game thing. Brown dusty makeup clouded the air around the safe. I stepped back and waited for it to clear up. Dust takes a long time to settle in Artemis. Atmosphere plus low gravity equals particles taking forever to fall. So he might just assume that everyone who reading the book has suffered a head injury or is, frequently suffering them between chapters if he's, he's giving you the level of humor that you might appreciate at that level and also explaining the gravity thing every single chapter.
Was this written as a serial in a newspaper in the 1870s or something? And he just was like, I don't know. What did I write last time? I don't have that laying around anymore.
It wouldn't surprise.
Wow.
But then, so what she did is she essentially took her makeup compact, did the LeBron thing, threw the dust up in the air, and then when that dust cleared, you would quit the game at this point because you're like, this is so stupid. There's a Gabriel Knight thing where you had to get fur from a cat to make a fake mustache by putting glue on a thing and scaring the cat, and it's like, this is the dumbest thing you've ever. But then this is like that. I had a good look at the keypad. A layer of makeup covered everything, but 3 of the buttons had more dust on them than the others. The 0, the 1, and the 7. Those are the ones with finger grease on them. With a hotel like the Canton, you could bet they cleaned everything in the room between guests. So those numbers had to be the digits Jin Chu chose for his combination. Incredible. And then that's where we covered it in fanfic, but I'll have to read a little bit of it. He drank Turkish coffee while I had black tea. We talked about, he was a Star Trek fan. I typed 1701. The safe clicked open. NCC 1701 was the registration number of the Starship Enterprise. How did I know that? I must have heard it somewhere. I don't forget stuff. So that is just I'm not even going to bother. That Kelvin is a Star Trek nerd or whatever. It's just blah blah blah. I wanted to make a joke, and screw you if you're wondering why I know that. But it's also even more insane than it was when we read it in real fanfic, considering she'd just been almost murdered. 30 seconds before she makes that revelation.
Right. Yes. Heart still beating. We've all had, extreme scare, extremes in our life.
Car crash or something.
Yeah. God, I remember once a near car crash with my son, and 10 minutes later, I couldn't stand. My legs were trembling. I had no control over my legs. That whole, because it was so close, and so I could see the face of the screaming person. He's like, ah. But yeah, she's just cracking old Star Trek jokes.
You're just like being like, your life flashed before your eyes. You're, imagining your son's graduation. Things you would have missed if the worst had happened, and you pass a bike shop, and you're like, oh, that reminds me of that Different Strokes where they went to the bike shop. That was wild.
All right. So after this, she goes to Svoboda, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. And I just thought he should probably settle down with his stuff as the author, Mr. Flatcap. I'd changed back into normal clothes, but I still had my whore do. I don't know. That just sounds a little...
yeah, when you lay it all a little thick. Just, there's probably a bunch of people out there who hope that there's no secret Google tracking of your incognito tabs, but the research for whore-do is probably one that this guy is hoping never gets turned over.
Because he says Svoboda sees her, and she calls him Svobo.
Yeah.
Okay, but it is Svoboda, I believe.
Yeah, he notices that he says, are those sparkles? You have sparkles in your hair? It's like, I don't know. That seems like something more like going to prom, Like you go down to, 42nd Street in the 70s and the prostitutes are putting glitter in their hair. Like,
I don't know.
It seems like a Katy Perry kind of thing. Like,
right.
All right, whatever.
But it's good to know that he is the little German foreign exchange student from The Simpsons in the 1990s.
Uter, yes.
She tosses him a square of chocolate from her pocket. So I don't know if that's spilled from her purse or whatever. I don't know. But
the contents, yes.
Yes. But he says, "Ooh, chocolate." He caught the morsel and unwrapped it.
Yes. My note exactly was he's Uter or Augustus Gloop.
Okay.
She looks back at him and he's already got it smeared all over his face and he's licking the wrapper, As a Ukrainian, sure, that's another good stereotype.
Yeah.
Ooh, the chocolate. And then he has his mouth full and says, "Oh, hey, did you have a chance to test the condom?" "No, I haven't had sex in the 2 days since you gave me the condom." So again, whatever the payoff is not. It's either going to be the greatest thing we've ever read on the podcast, or it's just going to be like that. That was what you had to remind us every single chapter that she was carrying this thing around was for.
So then she tosses him the Zaffo thing.
Oh yes, because that was what was in the safe. Yes, we neglected to mention that.
Yes.
The Zaffo case that had some weird like cord or a wire in it or something.
Yeah, it's just a cord.
Yeah. And he offers to to help her, does whatever, and he's offended when she tries to pay him or something. But that it's a sort of pointless development. And then what does she then have to leave to go after this? She leaves to go.
She goes to the arcade district to stake it out because that's where she thinks that I
Lefty?
guess where Lefty is going to be.
Yeah.
But here now it's just a tick. So because here's a description. Evening in the arcade district's busiest evening is the arcade district's busiest time of the day. It's when and this is one word, rich fucks come out to play. What is happening? I don't get this. This is all of your goal is to be rich.
Yeah, that's true. That's buried in the.
You hate the non-rich people. Mm-hmm. The only person you liked was a rich fuck. Sorry. He's the only person you've had any amount of praise for. So I don't understand.
Yeah, and you just went to a 5-star hotel, like the most luxurious place on earth, but the
loved
rich fucks don't gather there. Yeah, you enjoyed the finest scotch there was to offer.
It's just a tick, so it bugs me.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, it is her goal. And as someone wrote in, with the analysis of the how much money she's actually doing this for. We'll get to that at the end, but it's not even that much, it turns out. This is another tick of hers. It says she pulled out her real gizmo and turned it on. It powered up and showed the familiar wallpaper, a picture of a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel puppy. What? I like puppies. It's like, we didn't object to this. It seems like one of the more normal, endearing things about you. God.
The exact same thing. Like, why are you yelling at me? You're describing something.
I'm not rich, I assure you.
I mean, Dickens doesn't describe the Do the Boys School, in Nicholas Nickleby and then go, what? It's a school with a bunch of poor kids at it. Like, I didn't say anything. I'm reading your description. I trust you.
Yeah, it's not a joke either. It just is it's a dog.
Yeah.
And then this is quite a section I just wanted to read as some more examples of the prose. The trick, she gets some gunk and goes into a cafe overlooking a bench where she's left her gizmo as sort of like a lure. If someone's tracking her, she'll be able to see him. She says, the trick with gunk is to steer clear of stuff trying to taste like other stuff. Don't get the tandoori chicken flavorant. You'll just be disappointed. Get Myrtle Goldstein's formulation number 3. That's good shit. No idea what the ingredients are. It could be termite carcasses and Italian armpit hair for all I know. I don't care. It makes the gunk palatable, and that's what matters. Good sec. Moving on. Thank you. That was quite a...
I had that note, and I have nothing to... It's like, that is so bad that I can't even... I mean, if Klein wrote this and it's not Andy Weir, wouldn't you use this as you read that and go like, I'm sorry I put this ruse up. This is obviously not mine.
Yeah.
This dipshit wrote this. That is the worst thing I've ever read.
Yeah, it would be, if Kurt Cobain did write Holes lived through this for Courtney Love, if he put, wild honey pie in it. She's like, well, we're not going to do that. It's a big tell. We can't be that. You're not going to put something that terrible on the album that I'm putting out under my own name. Brother. I did, however, it wasn't until this moment that I remembered that when I was on Jeopardy, Settle Down Quilters, that one of the questions I got, one of the answers was gunk.
What?
Yeah, I isolated the clip. We can play it now.
This word for thick grease comes from a trademark for a grease remover. Conor.
What is gunk?
Gunk, that's the word.
Draw your gun 200.
Wow.
But yeah, very exciting to one of my few triumphs on that episode of Jeopardy was getting to say what is gunk on national television, and I never gave it a second thought until now.
A lot of talk about gunk in this. This was good to finally get that out of the way. But here's the weird thing. Unless you have something before it, I'll just get to it. This is about Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy finds her.
And I'm just going to preface this with, what the hell is going on here? Sit down, Jazz. He shot me like, eat your gunk and let's talk. I settled back into my seat. There was no way I could take Rudy in a fight. I tried once, back when I was 17 and stupid as shit. It didn't go well. The guy had muscles of iron. Magnificent, stallion-like muscles of iron. Did he work out? He had to, right? I wondered what he looked like working out. Would he be sweaty? Of course he'd be sweaty. He'd be all dripping down those muscles and rivulets. I know you didn't commit the murders, he said. What is going on here?
We're on the run and horny, baby. I think that's what he thinks a horny 20-something-year-old woman does. I just thinks about rivulets of sweat running down muscles as a guy works out.
As he's eating a bowl of, I assume, green slop that looks like Italian armpit hair or whatever.
Yeah, has to make your sweat smell terrible. Like, just like everyone's got like weird, burps and farts from gunk all the time.
And she's talking, and he's coming to her with like, I know that you're in big, big, big trouble. Mm-hmm. But instead, she's thinking about his sweaty body working out
in like a Calvin Klein perfume.
And plus, he grabbed her when she was 17.
True. She did try to attack him when she was 17. Back when she was stupid as shit, though.
That's true.
She's improved a lot since then. I don't know. It doesn't reflect well on what his opinion is of 20-year-old girls. Nor does it when she says stuff like this. He says, do you know who owns Sanchez Aluminum, the company that she sabotaged their harvesters? I shrugged. Some Brazilian company. They're owned by O Palacio, Brazil's largest and most powerful organized crime syndicate. I froze. Shittity shit.
Yep. It was my friend who told the story of the guy in his window.
Mm-hmm.
I happened to be doing this reading. I was at a very loud brew pub.
Wow.
Because there was a bunch of people in our house, and anyway, I had to leave for a reason. So I just went down. It's just down the road, and I, Wi-Fi and all of that. Put the noise canceling headphones in and did my reading. And my friend called, and we talked about that. And then I sent him a snapshot of shitty shit.
Perfect.
And he immediately texted me back like, "Mother of God!"
He's like, "Oh, the guy was right. The guy was right. It's got to be Klein."
Yes.
Well, I mean, so yeah, the editor let that into a New York Times bestseller. That's good. I almost noped on out of there when I read that, but maybe I need to be reading at a brew pub. That might make it a bit more tolerable.
I also I just want to say at the brew pub, I had there were a bunch of kids. It's one of these, just a big open space, very loud, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why the earphone, the noise canceling helps. There were kids everywhere because there's like some softball team came with their parents, and the kids are just running all around. And I looked at and I was reading chapter 10, and because I'm not reading from a book, I couldn't tell how long it was. And I scrolled down, and I went, "Son of a bitch!" Like, super loud. Little kids turned, the whole place. It was like spoons dropping and monocles into martinis. Like, oh dear.
No, you don't understand. I'm reading a follow-up by the guy who wrote The Martian. Oh, our deepest sympathies, sir. That's a thing, though. We went to a brewery the other day, and there was a kids' soccer team had just come from there after their game or something. And this is not like a nice one. It was sort of like in a industrial type of area. There was no place to really run around. And I'm like, this is just, you don't go to Chuck E. Cheese anymore. You're just like, the parents have enough sway. They can be like, we're going to the brewery again, kids.
I felt the same way. It was very weird. Like, I couldn't tell who the parents were of the kids. They were just like running up and down, like in and out of the doors, slamming into stuff, playing tag. And I was like, anyone? Does anyone know who these kids are? Anyway.
Nice. Well, he goes on to explain that Artemian slugs are an unregulated, largely untracked quasi-currency, and the city has iffy identity verification at best. We're a perfect haven for money laundering. So between that and the morality mobs, that seems like something they really need to get their act together on up here. It is essentially like Tortuga in Pirates of the Caribbean. It's just the place you go for all your illegal stuff to happen.
Yeah, and it's all regulated by one guy, one just rippling muscled chunk of muscle with sweat dripping down his bare chest.
Who talks like Dudley Do Right.
Yes. And he's the only, like, I am the law.
Yeah.
He's the only thing between utter chaos.
And the literal mob ruling
mobs and
beheadings and
yes.
It's amazing that there's not more like graffiti or stuff on the moon site, since there's just clearly is turf that must be claimed. No one's respecting the American flag anymore. Like,
right.
But she, tries to get him out of there. He's trying to take her in, but she decides she's not had enough. She's going to nope on out of here too. He says, "Don't do anything rash." I did something rash. I flipped the table and hauled ass. Hell yeah.
Yes.
If you had, in any book, you should say, what's the over-under on hauling ass going to be? And you should rightfully say, I'll take the under at 0.15 at 0. But man, 3 is a unacceptable level of hauling ass in a book, I'd say.
The ass hauling ass stuff. But so she goes to get away from him, and she runs through a back door because she knows which doors are locked. They were supposed to keep it locked, but they never did.
Right.
So she runs down the corridor like, you can imagine the chase music starting, like, boo, 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 boo,
shaky
like,
cam, yeah.
Yeah, Born Identity kind of stuff. Like, oh, man, we're going to get a lot of fun jumping over buildings through the moon and all of that. But she stops because he's not following.
Mm-hmm.
And then like does a big Buster Keaton routine where she stops and then goes through the door, and then looks at him and he's not there, and then realizes that he's jumped out the window.
Yes.
And so so she asks someone, and I'm just like, so okay, there's an action thing that doesn't start, it sputters out, then it goes to like, pizzicato strings because it's a weird blink, blink, blink.
Yeah.
What is this?
Sneaking back into the room that she hauled ass out of.
Yes, and says, what's going on? And to a person, not sure, he said, some guy kicked the window out and jumped through. It's 3 stories to the ground. Think he's dead? Lunar gravity, I reminded him.
But it's like 30 feet.
Never mind. Was the guy dressed in a Mountie uniform?
You mean bright red clothes and a weird hat?
Oh my God!
That's where
in the middle of all of that.
Yeah, and that's where you get the real or fanfic. Light shirt, dark pants with a yellow stripe. Oh, Han Solo pants. Yeah, he had those on. Han Solo's pants have a red stripe, and it's not even a stripe; it's a bunch of dashes. Some people have no education. So the context of that being in the same chapter as the U.S. Enterprise thing is also pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, you can't defend this guy anymore. We're done. We passed it.
Yeah. What do our triumvirates say? They were pretty quiet. They haven't chimed in lately. I also just wanted to point out that when she does turn around, she says she channeled my inner dumbass in a horror movie and walked back to the door. Mm-hmm. So she switches up the Buster Keaton viewings with 1980s Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yeah, which she watched in rotation many, many times over. I'm assuming.
Back-to-back viewings, multiple.
Back-to-back viewings, yeah.
Well, she looks up some stuff about this aluminum company. They're like now deploying guards around the remaining harvester. She says, I might have been on the run for my life, but I wasn't willing to go without email. I just had it running through a proxy, so no one could tell which gizmo I used to check in. So I like that it's like, the net, where just if you need to do something, you just, modem into a proxy, essentially.
Sure.
Just like, what are we doing? Proxy. That's fine.
And then she says this struck me as a little... there was a certain pride in knowing I caused an entire company to shit themselves. They tried to kill me. I mean, you sabotaged a bunch of their stuff. I wouldn't call stepping up security shitting themselves, yes. Would you?
Especially when the oxygen supply of everyone on the moon depends on this one last thing. Like, we're taking the very real crime that was committed seriously.
Yeah, I went in and I planted a nail bomb over at the, Chef Boyardee factory. Like 13 people were killed and had been blinded and maimed and everything. Yeah. And then the company closed that one and for safety concerns. I can't believe they're shitting themselves over this.
Overreact much? Yeah, it's I'm not rooting for. I don't think anyone is, but that's a.
God, I hope not. Yeah.
It ends with her. She emails her father, and her father's tried to contact her, but she ignores it. And then the last email is from Jin Chu, the Zaffo guy who's from Hong Kong who needs Cantonese food, and they agree to set a meeting at her father's welding shop the next day, and she goes to bed in her nook. And that's how chapter ends. There's no communication with Kelvin at this point in time.
No, the letters, that part of the book is done.
Yeah. But chapter 10 is sort of a long one, so I guess we'll have to be sort of selective about what we discuss here.
Yeah, we're getting we're running long, so let's get chapter 10.
It starts with her saying, the thing that sucks about life or death situations is how boring they can be. I had to look up where that was on the Goodreads quotes rank list. It wasn't
It didn't.
It wasn't up there. But it is very similar to, that's the thing about crying yourself to sleep. When you wake up, the problems are still there.
Yeah.
There's multiple things about things that are stupid. The number one quote is, I don't think we've got to this yet. On a scale from 1 to invade Russia in winter, how stupid is this plan?
Ugh. Ugh. So she talks about how she had smoked when she was a kid, and it had, she puked from all the smoke that built up, and she was doing it just to get back at her daddy, and like, take that, daddy. And then she writes, "God, I was such a dipshit." What's changed?
What?
Was? I don't understand. Are you? Is this supposed to be a mature version of you now?
Yeah.
What?
I would like to see the list of what has changed in your in the 10 years since this happened, but everything seems pretty on track. You're just not smoking cigarettes.
Right.
You're bitter. You're drinking all the time. You're immature in your sense of humor and ethics. Your relationships don't last.
People think you're a whore.
And she also tends to just react with sitcom quips to everything, because she goes to I guess this is Jin Chu. He shows up. She says, "How did they find out I did the sabotage?" He looked at his feet. I groaned. "Oh, you are such an asshole." So at this point, I don't know, if the lefty guy had tied her up and, was just taking her fingernails off one by one, she could be like, "Could you not? I just had them done."
I call those my whore nails.
Okay, they're press-ons, but still, if I had them done, that would have cost me 30 gunks or whatever they call them.
She this is petty, but she was going to with the guy. The lefty comes in. Of course, she's been sold out by this guy who she didn't know him at all. He carried a Zaffo case, and she saw him for 2 seconds. So whatever. But anyway, she trusted him.
Kind of, yeah.
I clicked the trigger, and the blowtorch flamed to life. I held it out at arm's length toward the approaching lefty. "Which part of your face you want creme brulee, asshole?" Which is actually, he would go, I speak French. My face is not creme, so technically you'd only be bruleeing my face, which is actually brouillante, is the actual term you're looking for. But anyway.
Nice. Where do you think she was encountering creme brulee?
I don't know.
As a reference point.
Gunk brulee, I suppose they serve.
But right before he burst in, Lefty, the Hong Kong businessman talks how I would just guess that Zooey Deschanel talked on New Girl. I've never seen the second of it, because she says, "First, tell me what Zaffo is." He winced. "It's kind of a secret." We're past secrets now. He looked truly pained. It's just, it cost a lot of money to make that sample. We had to launch a dedicated satellite with a centrifuge to grow it in low Earth orbit. I'd be super duper fired if I go home without it.
Oh my God.
What are you doing? I think someone else wrote in and said it was the second use of super duper in the book. So,
oof.
Again, if you're hauling ass 3 times, though, you got to make room for multiple super dupers. And it leads to what I think is probably the, I don't know. I said it was one of the worst things I ever read. I assume you have it highlighted. But he says, "You make it hard, I make it hurt," said Lefty. He had a thick accent. "This can be quick, doesn't have to hurt." Jin Chu covered his face and cried, "And I'm going to get fired, too." "God damn it," I yelled to him. "Will you stop whining about your problems during my murder?" I honestly, I think it's one of the worst things I've ever read. I don't know. I have nothing else to add. It just is you asked a lot of times last time, is this making you happy? Anybody?
Is anybody happy about this?
And she follows it up very quickly with, "I grabbed a pipe from the workbench. There was something weird about being on the moon fighting for your life with a stick and some fire." It's not that weird. It's the only place she's ever lived, where she has forming memories. So it's it should be the most normal thing to her.
But also, that's true no matter where you are, right? I mean,
it would be weird. It's not a normal situation, so it's by definition a weird thing to find yourself doing. But this is weird. When Lefty paused to consider why the hell I'd done that, she releases like a steam valve or something. While Lefty paused to consider why the hell I'd done that, I leapt to the ceiling. Which is like, what? Oh, wait. Not parentheses, not hard here. The average person can jump 3 meters straight up. It's the moon gravity. I'd forgotten about it because he had it reminded us about it in like a couple pages. So that's good.
I simply had the note, no. It simply can't be. This has to be a mistake. He has to have forgotten. An editor must have said, like, we just got to keep pouring it on. I know it's awful. It feels terrible. It insults everyone. Everyone in the room is dumber for having written it, but we're going to do it anyway. Like, okay. Or no book. Right. Okay, yeah. I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if it's Ernest Cline's editor, he must have some sway. You know, he's made it rain. But that book I keep mentioning, Tomorrow, would do stuff. It spanned a couple decades, so it'd be like, she did this, you know, or like, you know, he couldn't get in touch with her. Remember, this was the 90s, and not everybody had cell phones, and it's like, that has to be an editor. And again, it's so underestimating your audience's intelligence that it's like nails on a chalkboard. But this is so often that I don't know. I might give the editor some credit.
So this is an action scene. I don't know, unless you have a lot of stuff, we can kind of skip over it. Yeah. She like busts open one of her dad's things of neon, a tank of neon, and then she ducks into an air vent or an oxygen vent.
Like the places you'd go if there was a fire, I think.
And then so the neon spills out and displaces the air, and these guys pass out, and he can't open the door. Lefty can't open the door. Yeah. And so Rudy,
Lefty, come on down to
puts the sweater on and the pudding and the Rudy. Sorry,
Rudy has quite a setup. He goes to the Rudy's office, and this is just if you nitpicked the creme brulee, I gotta talk about this. But it says the rest of the room wasn't much larger than the apartment I'd grown up in. If Rudy had been born a few thousand years earlier, he would have made a good Spartan. Because he has a small office? I mean, it's a Spartan is an adjective, correct? That you could use to describe something, but as far as I do, they would just have beards and wear like gold Speedos and shout stuff and then kick Persians into pits. That's my main takeaway. So very interesting, though, that's just a good, not his warriorness, not his rippling rivulets of sweat, but his office.
You didn't know that the Spartans, the gates of fire, where they defended off that huge army, it was just a small office. Well, I guess they didn't make that clear.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Wow. And this wasn't even like close enough to 300 that you could say you're still coasting on that momentum. That's just it's a decade later. And then Rudy is like, Jin and Jazz are bickering. Rudy says hush and pulls a squirt bottle from his desk and sprayed us both. And I was like, this is the one time I honestly want to know how the moon gravity affects something.
That's exactly why not 3 paragraphs of that? Squirting a bottle from it and... Hush, he said. Jin winced. Now that's just unprofessional. So there's a little more of that new girl or whatever.
Yeah.
Quit bitching, I said, shaking the water off my face.
You may be used to taking shots in the face, but I'm not, he said. Okay, that was a good one. Go fuck yourself, I said.
Jeez.
Again,
our hero.
Draft, like, the editor, like, right? I think she goes on to say, like, eat shit, go fuck yourself. Like, it's like you don't even want to try to make her say something other than just the most bold-faced cliches.
So I think what this whole scene is supposed to play out like a, like a cop's office, with his sleeves rolled up and a cigarette and like, what'd you haul me in for? I'm not, but it's like a tiny, so I don't know what's going on. And then he's spraying people with water and
I guess that's supposed to be funny, like a dog, like, and then the president, I forget what her name is, the grand consulate from Kenya comes in and sort of says like, hey, like, we can't. This place wouldn't run without organized crime. Essentially, she says every city needs an underbelly. It's like a city of 2,000. So Christmas River also needs an underbelly. Like whatever. It's sort of she gets them out of there, and she says to Rudy, like, we're not sending these people back. We're not doing all this stuff. So she intervenes.
And at that point, she says, but Lefty, I guess I should call him Alvarez, had killed people from 2 different countries. Now what? And I was like, oh no, but that Lefty thing, it was so great. It was hilarious every time. Now we're calling him Alvarez? Really letting the reader down.
Yeah,
yes.
Everything got depressing once we entered this Spartan office.
Yeah.
But this is the first time, I looked it up. She says, Rudy says, this is ridiculous. She's clearly guilty. What's your fixation with this girl? Girl, I said, I'm 26.
We were guessing 21, 22 is the height, maybe?
Yeah, based on, I don't know how, but yeah, I had to look, I searched for it. 26 is the only mention of it here. Maybe she said I came to the moon when I was 6 and then 20 years passed, but.
Right. Okay. And then, so keep in mind, 26-year-old. Rudy glared as she left. Then he shot me a look. You're not safe. You're better off confessing to your... I'm sorry. You're not safe. You're better off confessing to your part in this and getting deported to Saudi Arabia. It's easier to hide out there than here. You're better off eating shit, I said. The 26-year-old said. To someone who is, I think, genuinely trying to give her some advice.
Yeah.
I don't know, but...
100%.
Yeah.
And then this one at the bottom, too, is the caps it off. She says, I'm better off on my own. I guess she's not saying still. It's the same author is writing this. The author is glancing up at his picture of him and Ridley Scott, him and the handwritten note from Matt Damon, and says, I'm better off on my own. Thanks. I turn to Jin Chu. What's Zaffo? Suck a dick. Weird. The letter from Ridley Scott just burst into flames on my wall. That's It's ignoring my calls. Bizarre. He hasn't even read this book, and somehow he knew.
Oh, wow. It's crazy. But so the administrator of the moon, Nuji, I don't know how to pronounce that, lets her go.
Yep.
And then she says to Rudy, like, hey, a friend wants to meet, but the last time I met someone, it was an ambush or something like that. It's like, yeah, how is your dad's shop, by the way?
Right. Yeah. The neon, you knocked some stuff off the walls, valves, gases were flooding everything.
Did your dad die in the neon? Like, what's the mop up from all of that?
Yeah. For the second time, I mean, they lit it on fire when she was smoking weed with Sean, too.
Exactly. He likes double beats. He really does.
After that, she goes to the bar because it's her constitutionally mandated meeting with Dale, who the bartender greets by saying, "How's me favorite arse bondit?" So that's just a sort of a whoa. And she sits down and has a conversation with Dale. They're talking about Sean, and Sean is not guild, and he's against the Electricians Guild, which is can we move on with the rest of the story at this point in time?
Guild talk.
Yeah. And it's good to see that Dale, I assume the new girl-less dialogue, and I assume this is how the gay characters were talking in Sex and the City. He says, barkeep, some little girl thinks she can outdrink me. We'll need 6 pints, 3 for the gay and 3 for the goy. So I'd say it's just good when the author can branch out into writing other convincing characters.
Yep, I had the same one with Sex and the City, the movie. For sure.
Right after, Jazz, how bad is it? Well, people want to kill me, so pretty bad.
Oh, God.
That's the weird touch.
And then we get a description of a hangover wake-up.
Oh, nice.
Which I want to commend to everyone. I mean, I won't read it. It's just absolutely terrible. But read Kingsley Amos's Lucky Jim has one of the most famous waking up from a hangover paragraphs. It's quoted on many, many sites and stuff,
nice.
So just look it up. I won't read it. It's a little too long, but it's very funny. And I just thought, oh, man, This is like so many levels below that.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
It's barely recognizable as the same art form, you would say. Probably shouldn't have been a good idea to get wasted in the middle of all this shit. But as I've established, I make poor life choices. As I've established, I suck. Keep reading my book and rooting for me.
As I blow things up and get stabbed. And then she goes to get a new jumpsuit, which I didn't know she was wearing a jumpsuit. I didn't know when her horror costume was on or whatever.
Sure, yeah. It was
but she says, I got to get a new one. It could almost stand up on its own at this point. So, dad jokes of the past, surviving into the future and beyond. It's just good to know.
Really? Especially because her dad seems like the least likely guy to deliver that sort of stuff. As
right.
A devoted workman, devout religious. So, is he
who was the guy who sort of raised her and yelled at her? Maybe he's the one who did that kind of crack.
Well, speaking of cracks, she gets greeted by some Svoboda before she even has a chance to knock. Jazz, wait till you see. Whoa, you look like shit. Which I think is a old enough cliche that might have been the first example of a supercut I ever saw. Like the first viral supercut I think might have been of all the "you look like shits" from movies and TV. Like that's how time honored a rote line that is.
I think and maybe 2008 or something. Mm-hmm. That was when that supercut of it came out. So you're talking about many, many, many years of that. And again, he likes to use stuff past its, best by date. Yes. He likes to wait until it's.
And he's not stocking up, canned spam that will outlast the nuclear war like Twinkies. He's buying, gas station sushi and trying to roll it out 3 months later to people.
And I'm just going to mark it down. We're at 4, I think, chin pinches. I pinched my chin.
Oh. Man, I haven't been noting them. What does she do that a response to?
I think it's a way to think or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
The thinker.
I don't know. He likes it.
It was my cousin's 10th wedding anniversary today, and she got married in Paris, so I was looking at pictures to send her, and there was one of me posing in front of the thinker statue. So, chin pinching is well represented there.
Sure.
The basic plot is he has found that the Zaffo device is a fiber optic cable that has like zero attenuation of the signal. So Zaffo stands for zero attenuation fiber optic. And so now we're really starting to get into the weeds with some more. He gives some science talk that's wildly uninteresting, but it appears this is going to drive the rest of the what there is of a plot here.
Yes, the cable bandwidth is the. We finally got to the heart of what this is all about, and it's about bandwidth.
Yes, it's like when you isn't Chinatown about like water rights or something, like in the middle of the war type of thing. It's like, all right, but you still, even though we're getting into science talk, you still get room for some of this. She pinched her chin. The more I thought about it, the less I liked it. Then all the pieces fell into place. Oh, God damn it. Whoa, said Svoboda. Who shit in your Rice Krispies?
So, Ukrainian, who sounds a little more like the German exchange student.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, who shit in your Rice Krispies?
I prefer the Cocoa Krispies, as I love it in chocolate.
Is doing jokes from like the movie Aliens or something from the early 90s or something.
Yeah,
good morning, ladies. You look like someone shit in your Rice Krispies.
Yeah. Sometimes when you get Cameron to try to skip school, it's as if someone has shit in his Rice Krispies. But I am still going to borrow his dad's Ferrari.
Yes.
And she nopes out of there. Just says it's not about aluminum; it's about something else. She is trying to piece together what's going on with this scheme, and she goes to visit what is her title? Oh, administrator Fidelis Ngugi, and she visits her. She opens the door. Her office. So remember, this is the same chapter. Her office was even less fancy than I'd expected. Spartan, even.
God.
I mean. I think it's 50-50 whether it's a intended callback or if he forgot that he made a heavy air quote joke about that a couple pages ago.
I think he forgot. I don't think there's any. It can't be a callback because it diminishes the other one.
Yes, it's a different style.
As crappy as that is, it's still, yeah. But she did have so she has a 1950s sheet metal desk.
Yeah.
So when they were putting that, like loading in the loading dock for the meat wagons or whatever they call them, did one of the guys go like, "Hey, we don't, obviously we don't take these. You'll get one made of a light plastic laminate."
Everything is flat packed, recycled plastic.
Yeah. Clearly, we can't take this desk.
It's also just a bizarre. I mean, not to harp on it again, but even if you were into desks, it seems like a hard thing to pin one down to a decade, let alone someone who clearly is not into desks, identifying the desks of 1950.
But then the chapter, because again, I'm looking forward going, oh my God, this chapter's still not over, is a long talk with the administrator. What did you just call her?
Administrator, yeah.
Of the moon. Like she's in charge of everything. She has a talk to her of like, hey, could you explain the telecom industry to me? And then you'd think, of course, it would be like, get out of my office immediately.
Yeah, there's still an unsolved double murder. Yeah.
Yes. But no, she sits and explains the telecom industry on Earth to her for a long time.
Yes. She's the main gist of it is essentially to manufacture this specific type of cable, you need lower gravity than you can do on Earth. So they're hoping they can manufacture it on the moon, and it would cause all of Earth to have to replace all their fiber optic cable to use this new one because it's better. And so, an impossible price tag to put on how valuable this is.
And then she says to end the chapter, it's kind of like one of those. But the telecom industry, also has these other kinds of cables. I never mentioned the other kind of cables.
Yeah, she Columbus her again, right?
Yes. Who mentioned that? Oh, I assumed he was murdered. Like, no, I never said that. He died. And then she's pulling a knife from her boot holster and held it at the ready. How did Opalazio find my gizmo? She pulled a gun from under her desk because I told them where it was. The end.
The end. Yes, the administrator has betrayed her, and they're both pulling things from beneath the desk. Like,
after a long talk about the telecom industry, it made me laugh so hard. You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's the one person she thought she could trust has betrayed her in the interest of fiber optics.
It seems like what's his name? Is it Tim Robinson? Who's the guy?
Yeah, I think you should leave.
I think you should leave guy. That seems like a skit that he would do. People pulling things on each other during the middle of a very boring business meeting. You want to talk telecom? Somebody pulls out a compound bow, to somebody else.
A Rottweiler is in the back of their from behind her. Yeah. I mean, she has a boot holster too. A good thing to know. It's
a boot holster. Yep.
Oh man, a lot of dumb stuff. A lot of guys writing a 26-year-old, and I mean everything keeps stacking up on itself that we have noted from the previous chapters. It's personally delightful to me, I think, to read something this bad and this supposedly different from what else he's written.
I guess I'll have to dip into a little bit of the prose. I find it impossible to believe that anything is better than that because you just can't, Mozart didn't, suddenly just write, a replacement song or something. Yeah. Yes, or he didn't. The Replacements is a bad example, but
sure, right? Yeah, he didn't write.
He didn't write a 3-chord.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And then go, and now I'm going to write the Jupiter Symphony, So I just don't buy it. It's possible, but I don't see how that you can shift up like that.
Well, before we do some sentences, I'll read one email. We don't have time for a lot of emails, but we have some good ones. We'll do them later. But there's one. Someone wrote in, and for the life of me, I can't tell if they were serious or not. So I'll just read another example of Andy Weir. This is from Lacey. It says, I am pro-Martian. Watney is A, joking all the time, even before getting stranded on Mars, and B, trying not to get depressed. Of course he tells jokes. I mean, okay, sure. Like, whatever, She says, they say, I'm not sure. One of my favorite quotes, tell me that it's not funny. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
There is no indication that Lacey is joking.
Okay.
This is 11:52. It's a text exchange or something. Watney. The crops are potatoes, grown from the ones we were supposed to prepare on Thanksgiving. They're doing great, but the available farmland isn't enough for sustainability. I'll run out of food around Sol 900. Also, tell the crew I'm alive. What the fuck is wrong with you? 1204 JPL. We'll get botanists in to ask detailed questions and double-check your work. Your life is at stake, so we want to be sure. Sol 900 is great news. It'll give us a lot more time to get the supply mission together. Also, please watch your language. Everything you type is being broadcast live all over the world. 1215 Watney. Look, a pair of boobs. Arrow emoticon, parentheses, period, capital Y, parentheses, period, close parentheses. I'll text it to you, but it is a AOL chat room emoticon that you could probably describe as boobs. And that is, I mean,
tell me that isn't funny.
Yeah, that's what they asked. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I will then.
So this is a passage from The Martian. Someone has wrote in to say that's what we're missing. Hey,
all right.
What could you say? When you use someone's own words as their greatest weapon against them, not the argument I would have made. But let's find some more dumb sentences with the time interval this has been. The first one is from Claire, who submitted "Travel's a bitch." That was like the reason that people wanted their home food, but she also wanted to submit it as Southwest Airlines' new slogan. Mike submitted the first sentence of the chapter. I don't know if we need to of this section.
Sure.
Stared at Dale. Daniel submitted Trond was a good guy. He just said the mega billionaire using jazz to commit domestic terrorism so he can more easily enact a hostile corporate takeover. Chap submitted, first of all, duh, I said. And he said, that's Jazz responding to Rudy as he's trying to help her by pointing out she isn't safe from future hired killers.
There we go.
Joe submitted, God, I was such a dipshit. He also wondered if was what's with the past tense. Harris submitted, okay, I pulled a screwdriver from my gaudy purse and jimmied the lock. Craig submitted, here we go. This is important. How about, so this is two sentences, which I frown upon, but how about $1,000 US? That'll be around 6,000 slugs. And Craig has analyzed this. He says, we now have an exchange rate. We know what Jazz agreed to sabotage the harvesters for 1 million slugs. So her price in dollars is 1/6 of that, around, $166,000. But those wouldn't be the U.S. dollars of the late 28. So those would be the U.S. dollars of the late 2080s, 70 years after they published this in 2017. When he says, assuming 2% inflation over 70 years, Jazz's million slug price that's equal to $166,000 in 2087 would be the same as $41,000 in 2017. So even though he's claimed to work out the economics, I don't think Weir really thought about how incredibly low the stakes are in the story. So yeah, that's just a very fun detail, I think.
Dr. Evil levels of
yes, exactly.
extortion.
John submitted, heat rises even in lunar gravity. And he said, during the book, he keeps interrupting the narrative to explain how ordinary things that we take for granted are different with lunar gravity. Now he interrupts the narrative to explain an ordinary thing that we take for granted is exactly the same, and the lunar gravity is irrelevant to it. Why even bring it up? Elliot submitted, that seemed a little too Buster Keaton to actually work.
Okay.
He says, the only media Jazz has been shown to care about are Saudi Arabian gossip sites. Mike submitted, I pressed the doorbell and heard a simple buzz emanate from the room beyond. And he said, did she expect it to play La Cucaracha? A simple buzz. He said, Justin submitted, I like puppies. He said, simple, elegant, stupid. Maeve submitted the one that Don DeMillo read. Sure, I have a nice body, but I wish it had been a little more effort to become so trashy. And she said someone should sit down with the author and ask him to explain what he thinks having a nice body and looking trashy have to do with each other. You get a real insight into the author's brain through a throwaway comment like this. Hayden submitted lunar gravity, I reminded him. And he said, too, this is referencing Poochie, whenever lunar gravity is not on screen, all the other characters should be asking, where's lunar gravity? Edmund submitted this one. Ever hear of gizmos? And he just said, yeah, you might have mentioned them. What is this? John submitted every phone line, every internet connection, every cable TV subscription. They all create revenue for the industry, whether directly from the customer or indirectly through advertising. John's observations, they still have phone lines and cable TV in 2080. Do you think they're still bundling? And he said, I don't need to be told how the telecommunications industry makes money. First of all, I'm not an idiot and I know how marketing works. And second of all, I don't care. But she is pulling a gun from her knife as she says, from her boot as she said that. So,
boot holster.
Amy submitted, this is again a two sentences, which I do not encourage, but it is a funny juxtaposition. There are no surveillance cameras on airlocks. We're not a police state. And she said, so only police states have security cameras for their critical infrastructure? They're not a police state. They're a bunch of morons who shouldn't be running a city unless the world solved terrorism and vandalism completely. Probably at the same time they were curing all known diseases in Armada. Josh submitted, for the love of Allah, don't tangle with murderers. Janelle also submitted multiple sentences. This is the last time we're ever allowing this, but she said, how did I know that? I must have heard it somewhere. I don't forget stuff. She says, I know it's not one sentence, but my God, it's Andy Weir's Prince Battle. And that was her referencing why she knows the Enterprise model number.
Right.
I began, but suppressed the "uck you" in my throat. And I also had, I don't think we had, I stood out like a sore thumb in my prostitute regalia.
Regalia.
Anything else?
No, mine were all well covered. So, yeah, I don't have anything.
There's so much dumb stuff. It's hard not to cover them in real time. But
wow.
I appreciate the commentary from people.
Yes, indeed.
Woo!
Oh, all right. We did it.
Went long. We didn't even have any dark web material. We got to step that up.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, everybody, for reading along. We have 2 more Artemis ones after this. So maybe they'll be a little shorter to do that. But
yeah, I think there's a little bit less reading. And as he said before, one more chance to fool me with real or fanfic. I believe I'm just hovering slightly above 50%.
Yes.
So please take me down.
Yeah, step it up, people. Thanks, everyone who supports the podcast. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks, everyone, for sticking their head into strangers' windows to give them your theories about the podcast. If that was you, please write in with your version of the event, please.